Testing, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another Friday Night Live here at ChristCentered Ironworks. Welcome to our house, our living room, our home, our couch. Voila. So we chickened out. We've got a lot of stuff going on in our life here recently with the Jeep, our primary source of transportation, breaking down on us over this past week or so. I've been like pulling my hair out on that just a little bit. So we figured that's
you still have plenty left.
Yeah, I still got plenty left. It's gorgeous. It's silky smooth. But we figured that we've been seeing a lot of questions come up in the YouTube community, in the live streams, things like that around blacksmithing and business and what to sell and things like that. And so Jessica's prepared some like bullet point type slides, and there's going to be a lot of talking points and maybe a few rants as well that we'll get into this evening. So most likely. It's been a while since we've added anything to our blacksmith our business of blacksmithing playlist, and so we're looking forward to add this live stream to it, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you out there if you're just getting started. I know we've got a lot of people out there that's been in the blacksmithing world for a long time too as well in the community, so feel free to chime in your experiences in the comment section as well, and we will try to answer as many questions as we can as we come up. So this is going to be a big Q&A stream mainly. I know that's not everybody's forte, but it's a great thing to pop your earbuds in and listen to anyhow. So, and go do other hammering things. So that's it. Yeah. So it's weird being on this. I got two screens to look at. Try not to just constantly stare here. So
yeah, Roy's normally is not behind the computer, so getting an interesting view of it. Let's welcome a few people. Baxter Oliver, welcome. Chad Evers, Eli from Bar Run Forge, greetings.
Hello.
Dana, Robert Shell, Boar.
He looks naked without that hat. I know. I kind of felt like censoring it a little bit, but so. Put a black bar.
Off.
Yeah, put a black bar just on my forehead.
Oh, I thought you could wear it anyway.
Yeah, no, I could.
Keep it hot.
It's over there on the rack. I could hide this head. So thank you, Yamez at Isle of Metal Forge, for that $1.49 mustache.
Mustache. Wayne says, looking good, Roy. All cleaned up. You picked a good on Jess.
Yeah. See? I know how to clean up well, huh?
Yeah. I should have worn my plaid. I have some plaid shirts, too. I could have matched, but... Thomas Matthews, greetings from Michigan. Probably doing nice and toasty down there in Texas.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. They had a cold snap here just recently with all that snow that's went up through there. Mm-hmm. Oh, how's it going?
Good. Looks like we have 60 viewers joining us so far.
We got 60 viewers so far. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that everybody got snowed on, especially after Troy's live stream yesterday. I hope you all get a healthy dose of snow.
We're sharing
in your local area. Yep, we're sharing the flux. So it's actually kind of amusing. I'm hearing everything from Ohio, like down in Ohio. I've got family living in Ohio and stuff. And, they're like, oh, we got 8 inches. And all of our snow actually kind of melted off. We still got areas where we've got a foot of snow in areas, but it rained. It kind of warmed up there the other day, and just enough to melt everything into a solid sheet of ice all over the ground. And so now we've got about another inch or two on top of that of snow. But generally,
makes it quite slick.
Yeah,
when you're
generally
walking.
This time last year and the year before, we had 2-foot snow drifts in our yard. So.
That's right, Yamez. Welcome, Roy, to the producer's side.
Yeah, that's right. So that's cool how it highlights them up in big green like that. That's cool.
That is a feature.
On the members.
That's a members feature. They get one of those a month, I think, where they can have a highlighted chat.
Yeah.
So it's not a super chat. It's just one of their highlighted chats.
It's just a highlighted chat. Cool.
Yep.
Cool. Good reasons to be channel members, huh?
It is indeed. Yes. David Lee, we are staying warm, especially in the house right now.
Yep. Very warm in our home, so good to go. Plus good coffee.
Mm-hmm. Nice mocha.
Good stuff. Nice mocha. So thank you, Justin Ray, for that $5 super chat. Greatly appreciate it. To future shipping. And God bless you. So today? Would we like to get into some of our slides
Yes.
and things like that? So Jessica's prepared kind of a good sampling of things, different bullet pointed slides and talking points that we want to go over. The main thing I would like to discuss quite a bit in this stream this evening is budgeting. So budgeting is one of the it is the primary make or break thing in a business right after marketing. So, you can get as much sales as you like coming through the door, but if you don't know how to properly budget that income that just came in through the door, you're not going to last very long as a business. It's really easy with the blacksmithing the way that it is to get consumed up in consumables and not balance things correctly, and then you're running at the end of the month with no money in your pocket after it's all said and done. So that's one thing I would like to focus on just a little bit more in depth. So we'll go more in depth with that once we get to that to that bullet point. So do you have a few things you'd like to share, Jess,
I do.
While we wait on questions and other things?
Yes, I will start up. I thought the logical beginning of it was starting your business. So I am just briefly going to start by touching there. We have a ton of videos in our Business of Blacksmithing playlist. And so if you are interested in getting more into your own blacksmithing business, I suggest you go check out that playlist for sure. Now specifically, I have made one video about 3 years ago called Small Business Startup Checklist in 10 Steps. And I actually walk you through the steps that are involved in starting your business. So whether you just want to run it as a sole proprietorship, or if you actually want to start it as an LLC, I touch on how you can do that. And that goes into, registering your business name and getting an FEIN number, things like that. So I highly recommend that you watch that if you're wanting to get officially start your business in that capacity. And along with that, I highly recommend a book by Nolo. They do a lot of law books, but they have a book called Small Business Startup Kit, and I've linked to that in the description. It's an Amazon affiliate link, and it is very good into going even further in depth than what I do in the video there. But it has all sorts of information, and I found it extremely helpful when we were getting our business started.
But there you go.
Yes, start at the beginning. Starting your business.
Thank you, Mary
Huthner? I think that's
Huthner?
Yes, that's my guess.
I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
know. I don't
Mary
know.
H.
Mary H. Thank you. But so one comment that I saw was from DK Ironworks. You had mentioned that Etsy fees are ferocious, and actually Etsy is lighter on the fees when it comes to actually selling things online. Obviously, your cheapest thing is going to be having your own website if you can drive enough traffic there that all you have is the credit card processing fee. But Etsy's actually pretty fair on fees in comparison to things like eBay, where you're going to pay a lot. And I do mean a lot. You pay fees even on the shipping when it comes to eBay. So,
Yes,
and that
I should have done a slide
that
on
can
that.
get extreme. So, yeah, you should have done
But I
done a
can
slide
tell
on
you
that,
guys,
but-
let's see, just off the top of my head, when we first started in on Etsy, their transaction fee was 3%. They have raised it since that time, but that was in addition to the credit card processing fee. So those normally range 2.8 to 3% plus like a 25-cent per transaction fee. So that's your credit card processing fees, or if you go through PayPal, their fees is right in that range as well. Then the Etsy fees, like I said, they had been at 3% when we first started. They've bumped it up since then to 8% of the transaction. So altogether, you're looking at about 11%, 11 to 12% in there. But they have a reason that they've done that is they've really increased their marketing. So they've also run mainstream commercials. They've been doing billboards. They've been doing a ton of advertising. So it's yes, they've raised their fees, but they're really trying to bring in the traffic to the platform, to the website.
Yeah, I'd like to touch on that here just a second. I also want to say hello, George Griffiths. Glad you could join us. And also Niels Ogrin, Good to meet you. And I messed it up again, I know. But Niels. We'll just say hello, Niels. Glad to have you in the stream. So one thing to know about websites, and I will say about websites, whether it be Etsy or, there's a few others out there. Our predominant one's been Etsy, so I can talk more specifically about that. They spend millions of dollars a year on Google Ads, getting your products, their products, in front of eyeballs at the top of Google search engine. Millions upon millions of dollars. And so that 11% may seem high, but when you consider a consignment fee, or if you're trying to put something in like your local shop where the store owner usually wants commissions between 20 to 35%, or worse yet, if you're in an arts
that's
community,
40%.
That's low. They like even up as high as 45% of the cut for you to have your stuff in their gallery with, mind you, no responsibility on their end if things get stolen or disappear out of their shop. And, and so you're just trusting them to be just an honest jackwagon, which they're usually not. So, when you consider that 11%, you have full control of your own product. Nothing gets shipped out until there's payment made, and, and they're spending millions of dollars advertising you. It's not a bad gig, to actually have to go with, so those are things to keep in mind. Advertising is huge. If you just start Joe Smith, right, on there, and that's your website. I'm Joe Smith and I Smith, okay. And you create a website out there, guess where that's going to go? That's going to go in the billions upon billions of other websites people make and never do anything with, and they sit, right? And it's going to go down in the bottom locker basement area, and it's not until you start driving traffic to your website through social media, through various other avenues, outlets, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, some of these other social places, right, that are out there. It's not until you start driving people in some way to your website, the good old-fashioned route, handing out business cards at every craft fair that you're ever at, right, handing out tons of business cards. It's not until it starts getting traffic that they start moving it up that list and it stop being this dead thing in the bottom of the bay, right? So when you first start your website, it's very hard to get that traction. Whereas when you're a new product and you're a new creator on Etsy, again, not a sponsor, but when you're a new creator, if your stuff is good and it starts selling, they spend the money to get you at the top of the search engines because they only make money when you make money. It's in their best interest to sell your stuff because they earn a commission off of that. And so that's what makes Etsy a pretty decent place to be a part of in that. And a lot of other platforms that have that kind of structure set up, they don't make any money unless you make money. So they're driven to try to get the traffic to you, and that's another way that once your name starts popping up, Joe Smith, Joe Smith, Joe Smith, Joe Smith the blacksmith, Joe Smith the blacksmith, that's Google likes that. They're eating that up. And then that will inadvertently side direct traffic over to your website. And then you'll start getting traffic and engagement there as well. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Hey, Josh Smith.
Josh Smith, almost like Joe Smith. Hey, Josh Smith. Good to see you. Sorry you can't stay long.
I'm going to go back up for a second. You guys brought up, DK Ironworks brought up, I was trying to remember what exactly they called it, so thank you for bringing it back up. They have an offsite marketing charge on Etsy that is another 15% for an item's, the sale of an item. And then Robert Lannis had followed up with that he had opted out, but do we think he should be in there? So our opinion on the offsite marketing is that we don't think you need it. We ourselves tried to opt out of it, but we had already exceeded what they have a bar, and if you're above that bar, if you've had so many quantity of sales and so many amount of sales, then they require it of you. You can't opt out. So for us, we're stuck in it. Percentage wise, I would say over the last couple of months, the offsite marketing ads have brought in I don't know, maybe 25% of the sales, maybe. I'd have to look at that exactly to get the exact percentage. But they're trying to charge you an extra 15% for what they're claiming is extra advertising. I don't think it's worth it, because that brings the overall fees that they're taking there up to, 27%. And so that's fairly high. I would stay out of the offsite marketing as long as possible. But what you could do instead is make sure you're doing this practice, is that you're renewing listings every single day. So we renew roughly, we spend about $2 a day. I think we renew it's about 20 listings a day is what we do, and we just renew them every day, and that just keeps bringing them back up to the top in the search results. And do that instead. Your money will be better spent that way instead of the offsite marketing fee that they're trying to charge.
Yeah. And then, it's business, it's a game of checks and balances, right? So if you've got to understand what type of business you are at a certain point, right? Are you a high flow business, or are you a high production business, right? Or a quality type business. If you're a high flow, a high turnaround type business where you're selling thousands of things, you're moving units, right? A sell versus you're moving one unit that's worth a lot of money, right? That percentage is going to smart more or less depending on what type of business you've gotten yourself into. Ultimately, you don't know that until you get started. That's the biggest thing. You have to just get started to begin with, and eventually your business is going to shift over time. We used to be a higher flow business. Mm-hmm. We started off with kind of more one-off stuff because we didn't know what would hit. We just forged it, post it, forget about it, right? Forge, post, right? That's it. Forge and then post it. Forge it and post it. Forge it and post it. And then all of a sudden we notice a trend. These certain items were doing really well. Well, then we made more of those type items plus a little bit different, add some different things to them. And then all of a sudden they sold really, really well. And then we were in the high flow side of business, right? We were trying to find ways of making it quicker, faster, more efficient, offering more for the customer's buck. And then those start flying off the shelves, and you're in a high flow business. When it comes down to offsite marketing, once you fall over into that category, that could be pennies, right? It could just be pittance to you at that point. Otherwise, let's say you're in that one-off kind of business where you're going to sell an $8,000 project, right? Mm-hmm. And you may only sell 5-6 of those things a year on the site. If you're paying the extra 15% out there on the other end of it, yeah, that's going to smart quite a bit, because that adds up. It all adds up in the flow of things, but you really see the pains there once you get over a certain amount of money that you're making. But when you're first getting started, again, you don't have presence, you don't have market presence, you don't have advertising yourself. Mm-hmm. So you have to pay to play somewhere, right, along the game to take and get that advertisement out there and get it moving and going. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Another comment that had tied in, I'll go to that one second. Mm-hmm. DK Ironworks says, what about paying for Etsy Onsite Ads over relisting? That's basically when you have a paid promotion ad for them to put it up there. A sponsored or paid ad. We've tried those, mm-hmm. and we didn't actually see an increase in the amount of sales we got during the time period we tried that. Again, with those ads, what they'll do is they kind of blanket put them out there, and so they they'll show, we've shown it to this many people, but those weren't necessarily people that were directly interested in that item. So that's kind of the problem.
A grandma searching for knitting needles will end up getting your axes of death, right? Show up that mm-hmm. you're trying to add, and it's a wasted view when it comes to that. If you're trying to really target one type of thing that is really popping off, it may be good to double down on an on-site ad like that. Is it Atoll? Ironworks. Thank you for the $5 super chat. He said, a good website A good website generator as part of their fee will help you with getting you registered with Google as part of their fee. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't have get that through your website provider, you could do it yourself also, you know. But yeah, that's definitely a route you can go.
Yeah. Thank you for the $5 super chat.
Troy, welcome, by the way. Saw you drop in.
Welcome, Troy. Thank you for my 4G award.
Yep, post and forge. Yeah, on that topic, if you're first starting up an Etsy store, you know, try to add five new items every week, you know, and keep growing the quantity of items you have in your shop.
Yep. Or even if you're doing your own website, right? Say you're staying away from Etsy or anywhere else. You're like, I don't want to fool with fees or nothing. I want to just have my own website. Well, then you need to do a lot more of the legwork, right? You need to do more of the legwork. So that means you need to be out there interacting with your community, directing them to your website. You know, that way you have searches, right? You need to be on social media talking about your website. You need to be posting and ghosting on your website. Forge and post, forge and post, forge and post. You need to be adding content, data points for Google to sink their teeth into. Again, in order for them to take and place people on your website. So that's what you've got to do. You've got to do all the legwork at that point, but then you get to keep almost all the profits, except whatever, if you got PayPal or whoever you're running your credit card processing through or anything like that, they're going to have a small fee that's, you know, a processing fee that you're going to have to end up doing. Yes. And so you have to do the legwork somewhere, or you got to pay somebody to do the legwork. Right. You know, and that's kind of how that works. There's other ways too. You can pay to run ads. You could do Google ads. You could run ads on other sites as well. You know, that's a whole long list on how to get into that. That's getting real deep in the weeds as far as that goes. And if you're just getting started, that's a little bit too much to have to focus on all at once.
Vorpal Smith and Forge ask kind of a specific question. Do you know if Etsy has restrictions on selling knives, or do they have a list on what is not allowed on their site? I don't think there's any restrictions on knives that I can recall, but again, we don't specialize in knives. We haven't tried to list any.
I have seen knives and custom knife work and things like that for sale over there. They do have you know, filters like anything else for like pornography or you know, nudity that's not classified as art, right? You know, that like your standard stuff, right? You know, grotesque things that they keep that to a minimum. You know, but as far as knives are concerned, there shouldn't be an issue of selling on Etsy.
Yeah, there's lots of knives
on that. I've seen a lot of knives on there, so it would be my assumption that
if you are selling internationally, though, there is other countries that have a restriction on what kind of knives they allow there. So that might be something to keep in mind.
Yeah. So, Eric, great question. You mentioned refreshing items regularly. How long would you refresh an item before it's no longer worth the fee? That's a wonderful question to ask, because we ask ourselves this question regularly as well. The way that I've chosen to look at refreshing items is data points. They're data points that somebody can look and potentially want to purchase something else from us or that particular item. So it's like casting a wide net, right? If you only have one little hook out there and one little lure out there in the middle of the ocean, it's going to be really hard to catch a fish. Versus if you threw a gigantic net out there, you have a lot higher odds of catching some fish, right? And so each listing is in that way. Now, let's say you're just getting started. You have a lot of things that are selling really well, but then you have this one item that sells for like $4 every time you get it, right? And I'm just throwing this number out here. Every time one sells, it's like a $4 item, but yet you put out 40 cents a month and you only sell one like once a year. That's probably not an item I would keep in the store. And so therefore that's an item that it gets booted and I wouldn't pay the relisting fee on. But on things that you're selling on the regular, you constantly relist those. If you're just getting started, you don't know what those items are yet because you haven't cast out that net. It hasn't had a chance to, grab anything yet of substance in the market. So that's how I look at relisting items. Think of it as a very cheap, and I do mean very cheap, pennies on the dollar way of advertising yourself out there, right? So the more and more lures, the more and more net that you have out there, the tighter and tighter grid you build, the better off you're going to be in the long run. And that's going to cost you something. So that rolls back to a budget, right? You might want to set yourself in your business an advertising budget per month that you're willing, whether it's just in your head or if it's written down, that you're willing to stick to and not go over. And if you find things underperforming, say give it 90 days, 90 to 120 days. If something's really not selling that great, that you meant to be a production item, in about 6 months, I would say then you can probably discontinue it if you have other options that are doing a lot better for you.
And sometimes if something's not selling, that can be an indicator of a couple of things you can look at further. One would be your price point. Maybe you don't have it priced appropriately. You could look and see what other people on the market are selling theirs for. And the other thing could be photographs. Could you be displaying the item in a more beautiful way, more attractive? So sometimes those two are the other biggest things that go into if an item's selling or not.
Rob said they won't let me sell the grandkids. Yeah, they won't let you do that online. Oh, and then Chris Kelly said, "Do you get paid if I let ads play full?" Great question. So on the YouTube channel, when you see an ad like a pre-roll or a post-roll ad right after a video is done, those, if you watch the ad, again, YouTube, they don't tell us that as creators, when or where we don't get paid, and not everybody gets shown an ad who watches the videos. But of those, if it shows you an ad, we collect a certain amount of that. So if it shows you an ad and you watch whatever percentage of that ad, we will collect a small, it's a half a cent, a view or something like that, right? So, but we do collect some small little percentage if you actually get shown that ad and you watch some portion of it. If it's a 5-minute long ad, skip that booger. Like, I wouldn't sit through a 5-minute or 10-minute long ad.
No.
Heck, I saw one the other day that came up on me, and it was an hour-long ad. I was like, what the?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. And what's killer part is I actually had my headphones in, and I was working in the shop, and I'm like,
wait a minute.
I'm like, this ad has been going on forever. And I look at it, and it was like an hour and 15-minute long ad. And I was like I was like on minute 10 of this ad that wasn't even part of the video. So they did it really well. They suckered me into 10 minutes of this ad. So we do get some small percentage of that if you're shown an ad.
Yep. Xavier Sontag says, how do you do shipping? Do you pay for it or have the customer pay? Depending on where you're selling, that kind of answers that question. For us on our own website, yes, the customer's shipping is tacked on to the item's price. So we have calculated shipping basically. On our end, when we make the listing, we enter the weight of the item and the package size, and then we believe we'll calculate it for the customer as they're going through the checkout process. Now, alternative to that, on Etsy, Etsy has made the move in the last, I think, 18 months to push for free shipping over $35. Now, they've done the market research on that, and they said this is how you get more sales, and so they have highly recommended all of the sellers to offer the free shipping for items over $35.
Which most veteran sellers have already baked that into their price long time ago. That's where they got that data from, was like, hello, offer free shipping. So at one time, it used to be that they didn't have an option for free shipping, and you actually had to refund, you had to refund their amount, or you had to set it to where it would ship at the lowest possible denominator. So they used to not actually have that baked in to where you could offer free shipping. So they were a little slow on the uptake, but many creators baked that into the price long time ago. So
Question from Flat Rock Mountain Forge says, how does ChristCentered work into your business plan?
Well, as far as Christ-centered, the Christ-centered portion work into our business plan, it's not necessarily into our business plan as a whole, like the monetary end of the things, like how we divvy up stuff, other than that we pay tithe on everything that we get in on our income or our increase. That's what we do. Tithing is a principle of Christianity, not specifically, but it's something that we do. And the other end of it is how I treat customers and how I go about interacting with my customers and taking care of them long term. I treat them as I think Christ would have me treat them. And so that's where the Christ-centered portion comes into our business structure, if you will, in our plan, is how we go about interacting with our clients and with friends and family and everything like that, every parts of our lives. Great question. Oh, I know we're probably missing. We're missing a slew of questions.
Some of them will get answered as we go along.
Yeah, some of them will get answered as we go along. So, but yep.
Do we want to go into the next slide?
Yeah, go ahead to the next slide.
She's got a
slide. We've been talking about it a little bit. Let's go ahead.
Places to sell. Aren't even the topics.
So, but real quick, I just want to mention too, we are not sponsored by Etsy in any way. We have just earned a very large income for a long time through Etsy, and it's helped us build our business. So that's why we can speak specifically to it as a platform.
Yep.
They should pay us, shouldn't they? We've been on it long enough.
It would be great. If you are looking to start an Etsy store or you want to know more, make sure you check out our videos. I've made quite a few on Etsy, from SEO to just starting your store in general, making a listing. I have like a refer a friend kind of link to it. And so if you go through my link, you'll get like an extra 40 free listings when you set it up, if you're interested. We do highly recommend Etsy. Like, they do have, they're changing a bit from the way they used to do it, but they're bringing in more traffic, and there's a lot of good things about posting your stuff on Etsy. Now, some of the other places that you can post your items is Facebook Marketplace. We have not personally done this one, but I have seen a lot of makers that have been on there, and you can even create your own Facebook store and everything. The third option for online, this one we do. We have our own website. We have chose to go through Weebly. Weebly is very easy to use. Everything is drag and drop, so it's like boxes. So if you're when you're going along and building, if you want a title or a photo or a text, you just drag and drop the box and fill it in with whatever it is that you're trying to add. I have done website design when I was in high school, and like everything I learned I could basically throw out the window because it was so easy to use Weebly's platform where you just drag and drop everything.
Hashtag not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. I do have videos. I have 2 videos on Weebly, one setting up your store, and another one on making listings. And so go check those out if you're interested, and it'll show you, kind of the drag and drop method. You can also start off for free on Weebly, and you don't even have to register a domain. They allow you to do a subdomain through them, so it's at no charge. If you do, you can go up to, they have additional tiers where it is paid, and you can add extra things onto it, like you can register your own domain. If you have the privacy in place, that's about $30 a month. $30 for a year to register your own domain. And then like their highest tier, their business plan, where you can have your online store and you have fully unlocked features, I believe is around $40 a month, or discounted around $400 for the year to have your own website, that's the tier we're on.
See you later, Yamez. Look forward to seeing you when you get back. You want to roll on?
Yes.
Locally?
Sure. Roy, I'll let you introduce the locally there.
Okay, locally you've got farmers markets, gift shops, craft shows, and bazaars. It all depends on what type of product you're offering. Gift shops, again, if you're in gift shops, you're going to be subjected to a very high fee, again, because you are in someone's shop. It's a consignment situation, and those type of deals can go bad real quick. But if you have no other options, it might be a good deal for you. You might know somebody with a small consignment shop, and it's a good way of supporting a local business, right? A fellow local business, and working hand in hand. You want to look for somebody who's going to partner with you, that you can help grow their business and they can help grow yours simultaneously, not just somebody who's looking to get a fat check off of your hard work. Farmers markets, we really didn't do a ton of farmers markets ourselves, just because it's just not my type of ironwork. So it won't really go into too much detail on that. As far as craft shows and bazaars, those are kind of one and dones on the weekends. You can go back to main cam. Those are like one and done things on the weekends. They're a great way of making a lot of cash up if it's a good show and you map out some really good shows and do your research. You can get a lot of income in a very short space of time, which is nice. It's a nice thing to be able to do at certain times of the years, like Christmas bazaars, right? Maybe you're a little short in that month. You're coming in a little short on a month. You can maybe do a Christmas bazaar. Same thing with like the farmers markets and or craft shows throughout the summer, right? Festivals and things like that. You might be like, oh man, I'm looking like I'm coming up a bit short this month in the business. Let me try to throw down on some product to take over to a craft show real quick. And that might just be the thing that you need in order to pick up that extra bit of income so you can keep the lights on and the forge fed, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe not yourself fed, but at least the lights on and the forge fed. So
MH says, I started my business in blacksmithing in January, and it is hard to sell items on Etsy at the moment. For us on Etsy, normally January through March is pretty slow.
Yep.
Also,
welcome to the slump. So
yes. It picks up.
Welcome.
It picks up late spring and into summer. Normally summer, it's full swing out through December. So yes, it's a bit slow. Also, when you first get started on Etsy, getting your first couple of feedback is very important. Even if you can just get some family or friends to buy some low dollar items from you just so you can start getting your first couple of feedback.
That's right. You heard it from us. Pay for feedback. You got to do what you got to do, folks, in this world of business.
Well, and so where I heard that technique originally is we sold on eBay about a decade ago or a little longer ago, 12 years ago. And I took some classes on getting your eBay store started. And that was one of the recommendations is to getting your store started is to get those first 10 feedback as soon as possible. So, you don't necessarily have to go with the friends and family method, but, maybe you just lower your first initial items for a lower price to try to be more attractive to the customer and just try to speed up those first couple of sales. That way, when new customers come in, you appear as a more established store because you have the good feedback and it's, they see you have a bit of a reputation.
Yeah, and that old adage of Rome wasn't built in a day, right? That it's very, very true when it comes to your business, whether it be online, it's in-person sales or whatever. It takes a while to work out all the kinks to get motion and get movement going. Then once you get movement going, then it takes a little bit to work out all the logistical kinks to keep up with the movement that you've already accomplished. And then you run into even more kinks in the work that you have to take and straighten out even more to get even more movement out of the business and to continue to progress and grow. So, this is a thing that takes time. If you're trying to get into blacksmithing as a business, maybe you've done it a while as a hobby, and you're like, man, I'd really love to do this thing full time. You have evenings, you have weekends, you have hours of the day that you don't work, right? And some people say, well, no, I don't. That's not true. Unless you are living in some communist country right now, you've got moments in the day where you don't work, right? And those are moments where you could be working towards something else in your life that's fruitful to you versus kicking on the Netflix or the, whatever you like to watch or do in the evenings. You could devote at least an hour a day to your business. That's 7 hours a week. That will add up eventually, right? And then whenever you can get a free moment in a weekends and working on things. And the reason why I say that, if you're working a day job, that can be very handy to help set you up in your business. So, when when we got started, I got in a car wreck, and so therefore I started at the very bottom of that, right? I had a forge, I had an anvil, I had a hammer, I had a vise, and a couple pairs of tongs, and an old-fashioned hand crank drill press, and that's what I started with the business. I did not have a grinder, I didn't have welders, I didn't have anything. I had a buddy who did have a welder and did have some grinders over at his website, Richie Krim, thank you. And I spent many hours, many nights, late nights, pestering him over in his garage and making a nuisance of myself. But he offered that space to me to be able to help me get on my feet as a business and get established at first. So I feel very blessed and fortunate for that. But I started essentially with not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. Started a little 6x10 shed, eventually moved up to a building that I had an old tractor parked in, and that was a 12x20 building. You guys got to see that on this channel and seen that for many a years, and now I've moved up to where we are now in northern Michigan with a full 2,000 square foot shop. So again, it's a constant moving process. And so if I would have had the luxury to continue to stay in my day job and pile money back towards the business to start with, I would have started with way more tools that I wouldn't have had, as much trouble with, and, just simple things like stocked up on consumables, stocked up on steel, right? Things like that you never think about that are going to compete between that and groceries, right? You can buy, you can buy that angle grinder, or you can get your kids some food for the week. Angle grinder, right?
You better break out the sandpaper.
No, you don't got the angle grinder. You're there with a file and sandpaper, right? And everything takes 4 times as long. So if you can get yourself into a position where you're all set up before you try to make that transition, including with sales as well, and start getting them rolling in, and they start competing for your time, that's the perfect way, if you can, to start a business.
Greeting, Mr. Crawford. I was going to say, there's a comment up here. Lance Caudill says, local classes or online classes? If you're asking if we do either of those, Roy does in-person classes.
Yep, I do in-person classes. I don't really do any online classes.
Yes, and then if you're talking about if you could use those as tools to bring in sales, I suppose you could. If you were maybe teaching beginner blacksmithing or something, you could always offer tools for beginners and work that to your advantage. Yep.
And Eric, great thing, said getting a shop set up at home would really help in turning this into a business. Right now, it's a 20-minute drive each way. Yep, and so there you go again. That's another thing. It's just a small hurdle to take and climb, right? And you're going to have many of those as you do this for a full-time living and as a business. It's always something new. For instance, my Jeep right now, if you could see out that window, is up on a pair of ramps in the middle of my driveway. It decided to die on us right in the middle. It's some sort of electrical issue, and ran fine the one day, parked it, no issues whatever, went inside, came out the next morning, tried to start it, nothing. Womp, 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 right? And I need that Jeep so I can go get propane for the shop and steel in and for orders and clients' jobs and consumables and like a whole slew of things. Oh, like taking in packages, right, to ship out orders and things like that. This is just one bump of tens of thousands of bumps that we have encountered in the time that we've been doing this as a full-time business and as an income. So, that's just one of those things. So that's, if you could get a forge set up at home, you're going to have to deal with maybe the county and building inspectors and getting, whatever, your local permissions to get stuff built, right? Things like that. Maybe you don't have to do any of that, but it's buying the shed and organizing, orchestrating all that mess to get that dropped in your backyard. You know what I mean? Working with your neighbors and saying, hey, free spoons for life, right? Or something, it's quite the trick, but those are all just little hurdles in this very long process. Very few of us can afford to just buy our way straight to the top.
Mm-hmm.
You highlighted a comment there?
Yes, I did. Graham Pepper says, hey, Roy and Jessica, I have moved to Tasmania for family and friends, waiting for my shipping container to come, but I have the ability to get raw coal I need here, and it's not as hot in the summer. Do you have any tips?
Not as hot in the summer. Well, don't freeze. Awesome. Glad to hear that you're doing well for yourself there. As far as raw coal is concerned, if you're getting it mined from somewhere, just light a fire to it, brother, and watch my videos on managing a coal fire. That would be about it. If you're digging it yourself and you're getting it off the top and you're getting that lignite or whatever it is coal, it's what they used to call brown coal, and you're getting it off the top, top surface. It's a very dirty coal, so you're going to have a lot of dirt and ash and some other stuff to contend with. But it's going to smoke like a freight train, and so just make sure you have good ventilation.
Let's see, Mary H., you asked a little earlier about packaging. Any recommendations on packaging? I did a whole video on this in the Business of Blacksmithing playlist. But one thing you can do if you don't want to spend a whole lot of money into packaging is if you ship a lot with USPS, if you go to their website and look under their, go under shipping and then packaging, they have free packaging. They have things like your flat rate boxes for free. I really recommend your regional rate boxes. The regional rate A box, if you're shipping something heavier than 2 pounds, you're getting a discount by using that one. And the regional rate B boxes, that one's larger. If you're shipping something heavier than 4 pounds, you're saving yourself money by using that one.
Lots of great information. I'm reading everybody's comments on the Jeep. I'll be checking into some of those things. Thank you. Yeah, and no, Thomas Goodymoot hasn't fixed it yet. So him and another good guy that he introduced me to by the name of Matt, who's a mechanic as well. We all stood out and worked on it one evening until about 11 o'clock in the evening, and -4 wind chill, trying to get it going, and couldn't get stuff. Of course, we probably all weren't thinking in our best minds. So we're going to work on it tomorrow. We're going to work on it tomorrow,
daylight.
Bright and early, where it's a daylight and a lot warmer. So hopefully we'll make some progress on it tomorrow. If not, we'll be looking for another vehicle, to buy.
Yep.
Which I don't like buying vehicles. I hate it, in fact. It's such a waste of money.
It's a necessity, but
it's a necessity,
not fun.
but a waste of money. Not fun.
Question from Jeremy says,
Yeah,
would
Jeremy.
it help to offer small custom touches to a low-selling item, or would that just cause more of a headache? So we did stamping.
So, let's see here. Would it help to offer small custom touches to a low-selling item? So a low-selling item as in it's not selling very well. So, yeah, I would say analyze what it is that you're trying to sell and compare it to what else is out there on the market, right? So if what you're competing with, say you're making a wall hook, right? And you looked at your wall hook and you made it and you're proud of it and everything's great, but then you look online and you see like 500 other ones for a little cheaper in price, and they all look cleaner forged than yours and they have elements that yours don't. Then you need to do one or two things. You either need to be able to sell yours for cheaper, to be honest with yourself, say, okay, this isn't really worth as much as what those guys are or those gals' work is, or I need to add some flourishments, at least come up to what they have done in their work. If they have some file work, you're going to have to add some file work. If their steel is brightened on the highs and dark in the lows, you may have to do the same thing, do a little monkey see, monkey do, to add those little extra flourishments. Maybe you can offer something like custom stamping, right? You know, you can offer them as maybe a different gimmick. Say they're like a wedding present or groomsmen's gifts or bridesmaids gifts or whatever it may be. Sometimes it's just rewording it a little bit can help them sell without you actually doing anything to the item itself. You know, very rarely do I drop price on items ever. I usually keep items the same price or they go up over time. And the reason why they go up over time is because they're a hassle for me to try to remember what I did 5 years ago and try to copy the Roy who was 5 years ago. I'm better now as a smith than I was 5 years ago. I was better at 5 years ago than I was 10 years ago. And I'm just, you know, going back in the annals of time, I've had people want me to recopy stuff that I made when I was a rank beginner, and I'm just not going to. My ironwork has now accelerated past that, and I don't look forward to going back to that. So if I was forced, they're going to pay new Roy prices, not old Roy prices on those things. So when you're looking at your work, that, you know, you have to look at it from a customer standpoint, is how attractive is this looking and how attractive is the wording that they're trying to say. Like the toilet spoon. Nobody wants a toilet spoon, right? It's just, it's not an attractive wording. It may be a necessity of life, but no one's going to like it, right? You know.
Rob Huff said he'd give you credit, though, if he goes to making them professionally.
Go for it, Rob. I hope you're the, what are these, professional poop spooner? You can go right ahead there, Rob. Go right ahead, my friend. Oh.
Comment from Jackson. He says, I finally got my wife's support. We rebudgeted, and I went to part-time day job, full-time learning shop. You guys helped with that, and I thank you.
Awesome, Jackson. Great to hear it. Glad we could be helpful in that.
Question from Matt Wyeth says, if you were to rent a shop space, what would you recommend as a minimum size space to run your business from?
As large as you can get for as small as you can afford. So this is a big mistake that a lot of people make. And you're going to see a lot of businesses that are, and they already are, they're coming up for sale and going out of business and things like that. People got hot under the collar with the whole Forged in Fire thing, and everybody's going to make Damascus, and everyone's going to be millionaires, and everyone's going to be masters, and it's just not the truth, right, of it. And many shops have failed already because of that. If you're going to go get yourself a shop space and rent a shop space, this is going to bring us into our budget, our budget portion of this video to talk about budget. It's why it's so important. You need to be able to handle that shop's rent, for whatever size it may be, every month. Every month. So that means you need to be able to handle it for a year, because it doesn't work for you to get all of your stuff in there, get everything, you know, set up, right, and then rug pull the next month. And you've spent all this money logistically getting everything set up. You've told clients that now you're set up and you're going to be able to take care of them and get their job timelines done. And then out goes the rug out from underneath you. And now you're searching for a place. Your deadlines are going past. Your clients are asking for their money back. Things like that. So you need to make sure that you have enough money in the bank that you can handle a year's worth of shop space rent. Now, a lot of times you can find shop space in a like a co-op. There's a lot of people who do like artistic co-op groups where, you know, you might only have to pay a couple $100 a month versus spending $1,500 to $3,000 at a very low end for a shop space per month for something with 20,000 square foot, and you are only inhabiting 8 square foot of it, right? Okay, so you know, that's something to keep in mind. So as big as a space as your monthly amount that you can afford. And what is that? It's based upon your jobs and the work that you have coming in. We struggled with this a little while back, and it led to us realizing that even though we could go after some larger jobs, I had one job that comes to mind in particular that it would have been a $60,000 job, and we walked away from it. Walked away from it because A, I was in too small of a building to handle it. B, it would have required too much logistics for me to get set up in a new building in order to complete the job within the customer's time frame. So for me to move shop, and then, and the last thing on that list is there wasn't a guarantee I would have further work after that to be able to handle the shop space. That would have been required. And so you'll run into those sometimes, but nothing worse than feeling that depression that comes over your head and that failure feeling when you've overextended yourself. You got hot under the collar. I'm going to make so much money. There's going to be $60,000 jobs like every single week come down the pike. I'm just going to be a flat millionaire, right? And then you like, dun dun, right? You're just like, oh man, I feel like a dodo now, right? One of those things. So yeah, that would be my answer to that. I know I ran on a little bit on that, but that's my advice. If you can keep from having to rent a shop space, like from a bit where you're spending $1,500 a month, and that allows you to keep your overhead super low, it really will help you survive and start your business. I'd ask around families, friends, do they have a corner of a barn that they wouldn't mind, making an extra, $100, $200 a month on, right? A lot of people do. A lot of people have sheds that they'd be like, I'll kick that mower out right now, if they knew that they could make, $100 and $200 extra dollars a month in their income, so just ask around when it comes to that. Don't get too caught up on, I need to be set up in a big industrial area and have 20,000 square feet.
Right.
So.
Yep.
Yep.
Simeon says, Roy looks good with his hair combed.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Oh, and he's been a member for 3 months at the Bellows Boy tier.
Yes, indeed.
Hashtag click on those channel memberships.
Join button.
Join.
Vorpal Smith and Forge says, so what I'm hearing is if you are selling something, then it's a good idea to check where you are selling to see what others are charging and try to keep your prices similar. Yes. The short answer, yes. In our Blacksmith cheat sheet, in addition to SEO, which is your search engine optimization on 50 hand-forged items, I also give recommended pricing in that book. I also did an online course, Pricing Handmade Items, where I walk you through step-by-step how to research and get a good feel for what other people are selling their items for, other than just doing a generalized search, but I show you how to go in depth and actually see what's selling and not just seeing what's been posted. So if you want to add additionally to that, about comparing to other people's prices.
It's just staying competitive in the market. I would say that in most cases, I'm higher than most other smiths online, and that hasn't stopped me from selling things. My typical client has way more disposable income than I could ever dream of. And so I'm not really shooting for the average Joe, the working man, right? Like that's not who I'm marketing to. And so you kind of have to keep that in mind, right? Like if you're trying to make tools for a working man, you're going to be dealing with working man budget, right? And so you need to kind of be mindful of that if you hope that the working man's going to be able to buy your tools. Right? I mean, that just, it makes sense that way. My general client or clients or organizations I may do work for have a lot of disposable capital, and so therefore my prices kind of reflect that, right? They're asking me to do things that are not your average ordinary item, if you will. And so therefore those prices reflect that. If it's custom work, generally speaking, it needs to go up. You need to charge a premium on top of that. I like to add at least about 30% premium of anything I have in the store, just as a general rule of thumb. So whatever it is, if it's $100, you're going to add an extra. If they want something customized on it, it's going to be another $30 on top of that as a bare bones. That's a baseline, minimum for a simple customization type thing, but you have to keep in mind where you're at, right? If I was selling, I have sold to clients all around the world, right, with varying degrees of income and varying degrees of that disposable income that we talked about, and interests and tastes and things like that. And so you can't really outguess them. You never really can you?
No.
Like, some people would be absolutely shocked, like, whoa, you bought this for me? You look like an average Joe. Yeah, but they just have a certain taste, and they were willing to spend their money on that thing that, you like that. And then you'll have other people like, oh my God. Oh, you guys charge $12 for that knife? Don't you know I could get it as seen on TV? One of them forged in fire knives? At Walmart? Right? How dare you, sir? You're a ripoff, right? And those people, you boot out your booth. You don't deal with those people. So yeah, you do constantly have to be mindful of where you're selling. Online is the greatest way to get out there amongst all people, not just people in your local area. Where we live at is what's considered a very low income area. So that's where we live at. We don't live in a Taj Mahal. We live in a 900 square foot home. That's very modest, by most people's standards. And that's just how we live. We live in a lower income area, and we sell to the much higher income area where, I feel all grubby like when I come driving up to install anything. Where I'm like, I'm not worthy. There's been a couple times where we went and installed like that at some Manners, and yeah, it was kind of like, yep, I'm definitely the blacksmith. I was the dude who was out of his element. Like, is that guy here to steal something? Who let the hobo in? There's been a few times of that, hasn't there, hun?
Yeah, there has been. So with saying that, I'm gonna go to the slide about our ebooks.
Okay.
We definitely have some resources, and I've put links to these ebooks and to other videos we have on our YouTube channel in the description below. So if you hear anything you're interested about, after the live stream's over, you can go back and look down in the description and get to any of these resources. But I've written several ebooks. A lot of them have to do with e-commerce. You can get the 6 bundle pack if you're interested in all of them. But specifically for this stream, I highly recommend the Blacksmiths cheat sheet, which I've written. That one is from the perspective of a seller. And what I have in there is 50 items that you can that you could forge from a small to medium sized shop. And I tell you what those 50 items are, and then I go into the SEO, I give you a description, and I give you a recommended price for those. And so anybody who's read the Blacksmiths cheat sheet, if it's been helpful, or whatever feedback you'd like to share, feel free to do so in the comments. Another one I'd like to bring up, this is my most recently published ebook, is the Everyday Photography for Blacksmiths. One of the things that we've noticed when we go and we look at other people's listings, especially some of the other blacksmithing listings, is the lack of presentation when it comes to presenting your ironwork. And when you're selling online, the person doesn't get to, the customer, they don't get to see the item in person. And so all they have to go off of is your photographs. And so, are you taking photographs that are inspiring the customer to buy? And so in that ebook, The Everyday Photography for Blacksmiths, I go over, I start at a basic level, and I say how you can improve your photographs even if you're just working from a cell phone. But if you're willing to step it up and get like a digital SLR, I go over the basics that's involved in that, for taking nice photographs. So I also go over some different backdrops you can use and things like that. So if you are already selling online and you feel like that's an area where you can improve, definitely check out that ebook because there's a ton of information in it.
The photography one, that surprisingly, that is the most underwhelmingly sold ebook that we've ever offered.
Yes.
And it is the most needed for all y'all out there. Like, just not even going to lie. We've had this conversation. This is what led to the toilet spoon.
That's why the toilet spoon's a thing.
There may still be a challenge coming, yet. So, and yeah. But yeah, that's why. It's like, it's needed out there. I would also like to point out, if you look at that presentation, right? So let's go back to that presentation screen. We can just use this as an example, right?
The ebooks?
Yes, go back to the ebooks.
Okay.
If you look at each one of those thumbnails on the ebooks, does that inspire you to want to purchase this ebook? Or does it inspire a gag reflex? Or, oh, wow, oh, that was shot on somebody's, murder room, right? Like, no, it inspires you. Jessica took every last one of those photos. She put in the work into the graphic design to take and make them an attractive thumbnail, a clickable thing that somebody would want to take and click on. You've got to take and do that same thing. We can go back to main screen.
All right.
You've got to do that same thing with your ironwork. You've got to put out really high quality photographs that really gives the grasp and the feel of what you're trying to get across, the emotion of the piece. Ironwork is a very tactile and very emotional thing. It is. If you have a good piece of iron laying on a table and someone is allowed to come up and they're allowed to pick up that item, if they can pick up that item, they're more likely to buy that item. Because their hands, that emotional feeling of like, oh, that was cool. Oh, that's softer than I anticipated that would be. Or oh, now that I can look at it, oh, look how that glistens in the light. Oh, look at this, right? We're human beings. We're all created the same. Black, white, green, purple, red, indifferent. We're all created the same. We are tactile, right? We like picking things up and looking at it. Internet, you can't pick something up digitally and look at it. You can't feel it. So now we use our eyes to pick and look at things. And so if it's very poorly lit, if it's dark, if it's in the corner, if the background's too confusing at what you're trying to sell, people bypass right over it, just as chaff, right? It's just like, that doesn't pertain to me. It may pertain to them exactly, but they just pass right over it, and they don't purchase it. And don't be afraid to constantly pivot, because even though those thumbnails may look good in our eyes, market research might suggest maybe the photography one needs some work because they haven't sold that much, right? To be honest, we haven't really tried to push it that much.
No, we
right?
haven't.
Either. But maybe there's some work there and we could get those sales up on those, right? So, that presentation, we have to be honest with ourselves and say, yes, this makes sense for us to do, or hey, that's working out really well, or not. And don't get too emotionally attached to a pre-described idea or concept that you need it to be this exact way, right? Because you might think it looks good, but everybody else thinks it looks like, ugh, and so you've got to be able to be willing to pivot when need to.
See, question from Vorpal Smith says, would it be worth the extra time investment to make videos or create links to show videos of your products to help others get a better idea of what they are paying for?
Yes.
If you can do a good job of it, yeah. Etsy, I think about 9 months ago, started putting this little fact up when they added a new feature for people to add videos. And they claim that they've seen a 15% increase in sales when a short video is included with the product's listing. And so they have been encouraging sellers to start adding that feature. So all they want is like a 5 to 15 second video. Like, it doesn't have to have sound. So they've definitely been pushing that. We haven't.
You get yourself one of these. It's called a cell phone, smartphone. You probably have one that you're watching on right now. And you put this on a tripod. And you hit record, and you roll, you rotate, you do things in front of the camera. You make sure it's well lit. Well, I don't have fancy camera lights. You don't have to. On a nice, bright, overcast day, go buy a window, set out a cutting board or some nice plank of wood that contrasts nicely with your ironwork. Cell phone, stand, hit record, show off the features. Take a couple little clips of it. Maybe if you feel spunky and want to show it in use, like a ladle, right? It's not that hard to set that up, and that 15 seconds could earn you 15 grand in extra sales. You never know. It's all about presentation out there. Oh.
Baxter Oliver says, is an anvil a good backdrop or a forge?
In certain circumstances, yes, but for finished products, probably not, unless it's a tool related to an anvil or a forge, if you will. There are hammers. We've done pictures before, photo shoots in my shop with the flames going in the background and the hammer sitting on the anvil that I was trying to sell, right? And that makes sense because it's a tool. It kind of fits in its place. If you're selling wood planes, it doesn't look good on a kitchen counter, does it? It looks good in a wood shop with some wood shavings spread around, right? You know, if you need to, if you need inspiration, go pick up a Woodworker's Digest, right? Or go to your local Wally World, Walmart, right? And go to their magazine section and see how the woodworkers do it, right? See how the other people put things and take photos of stuff, right? And usually, whatever it may be, say it's a wood chisel. Let's just say it's a wood chisel. They're going to be working on some wood or fake working on some wood, right? And getting a picture. Or it'll be sitting on something that's wooden with wood chips laying around it, right? You know, kind of carefully placed, right? Or things that relate, maybe a bit of sandpaper off on one of the corners or, you know, something related to woodworking generally. So in a blacksmith situation, if you're trying to sell tools, obviously a pair of tongs won't look great out in the middle of the wilderness somewhere, right? Because it doesn't jive together. But likewise, say you're selling something like a rod holder for fishing poles. It's not going to look good in the blacksmith shop because it doesn't describe in the photo what it is that you're doing with it. But on a tranquil lake with a line in the water, maybe a fresh fish caught, right? Boom.
Yeah.
Gold.
Now, I would say, you know, maybe to add on to what you're saying too, you want your main photograph to be fitting for the surrounding. But if you included one photograph of the item in your shop for every item, it does kind of give the customer a feel for your workspace, as long as you can present it in an attractive way.
Yep,
So.
exactly.
See, to answer your question, Eric, he says, the photography book is really good so far. Have you thought of offering them in audiobook format? For the photography, it's such a visual thing. I don't think it would make sense to have just an audio, just me talking about the different camera settings, because I do go through, I've really illustrated, I think very well, the different settings with lots of photographs and then like showing what's happening on the camera and stuff. So there's a lot to look at there. It's not just text.
Some of the other stuff like SEO and things like that, that could be an interesting thing to do audiobook as well. So howdy do, Thomas Goody Moot. Good to see you, brother.
So if you'd like, we can go on to the next slide, the business budget.
Let's see here. I just wanted to read through a couple things. So MH, smartphone tripod and turntable, my new investments this week. Good on you. That's exactly what you should do. Help you out.
Mr. Coffee says he uses a picture box with different backdrops. Yeah,
that's
cool.
a great way of doing it.
There's a lot of
awesome way of doing it.
Yeah. Amazon has like those little cube boxes that you can get in different sizes that are really well lit. That's just like a white. But as far as the lighting, it's really nice in those.
Frank Strock, here's a great one. I love you, Frank Strock, for this one. Thanks for bringing that up. Whatever you do, don't use a beautiful blonde in a bikini holding tools. There's a seller on eBay who uses eye candy to sell his stuff. Yeah, well, there is that old adage, right? That sells. You know, and I mean, certainly you might try that. We find that cheesy gimmicks don't really work, right? They they might get a laugh at it at first.
They might get the click. They might get the views, but not the conversions.
Yeah, they might get the clicks and the views, but they don't get the conversions, right? And those are two separate things. You may get a lot of traffic on an item, but if you find that you're getting a lot of traffic, but you're not getting a lot of sales, that means there's something misleading in your title or in your thumbnail of your item or in your pictures or whatever. In your marketing, there's something misleading about the item. So that's not encouraging them to buy, right? You can have that shiny lure dance out there all you like, right? But if there ain't a grub on the end of that thing, if there ain't a payout somewhere, people get irritated with that, right? You know, so yeah, buxom blonde there's not a payout with that one, right? You know, you don't get a buxom blonde with every tong you order, right? Like, no, that's not how that happens. So better not say too much. She'll get red in the face and I'll catch a pencil to the jugular. So I was going to say, if that was the case, there would be a lot of people who would have a ton of buxom blondes already in their shop as helpers, right?
Yeah.
She's gripping that pencil tighter, guys. I'm going to stop now and I'm going to lean this way.
Question from Jason. Do you plan on selling any cross-peen hammers in the future?
Yes, I do. I do plan on selling some other hammers in the future. I'm going to do, when I go back to making custom hammers again, I'm going to do it different. In the past, somebody said, hey, I want a hammer, whatever size, whatever shape, and I'd love for you to do whatever with it artistic-wise. And I'm not doing that anymore. I will make something, and it will be available for sale. So that's what I'm going to do in the future. What's up?
I was reading the comments.
Get your grub at home. Oh, no.
This is too funny.
Keep that tiny grub at home. No worries on that, fellas. I forget where I was at now. That's too good.
Sorry. Couldn't keep a straight face after reading that.
Yeah, Roy, you're digging a big hole. So I know when I've shoveled too deep. I know indeed. No. Where was that? I don't even remember.
I'm sorry.
I don't remember where I was going with that. I'm lost now.
Yes, we could go to our next slide.
Oh. Anywho, moving on.
Okay. Yes. Let's see here.
I'll remember it slowly. Got me off my rant there.
Oh, well, do we want to take a brief intermission from our slides and you can open the package that came in today?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know Troy's still in here, so before he has to leave.
Is Troy still in here?
He had commented.
Troy
up there, easy big fella. So.
We got something, a repackaged Amazon box here from you. I'm going to open it up live on the stream, if that's all right.
You wanted to see his reaction?
Let's see here. That's giving up the ghost.
Corey Shire, yeah, we actually bought a turntable 2-3 years ago, and I used it for the videography on Roy's hammer, the Tools of the Trade hammer, when I did that one.
Oh, that's what it was. Hammers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. Yeah. So yes, the answer was I will be getting back into doing hammers. I will be doing custom stuff, but it will be my custom stuff. What I want to do artistically, and that's it. And if you want to purchase the work, then it'll be there and it'll be available to purchase. I do have one client that is a collector of hammers that, there would be no fear in if I came up with another one that was very similar to the Baroque hammer that I finished up and completed. He would probably buy 10 of them if I had them available. So would have to do that. Yeah. I knew it. I'm good at guessing gifts just by their weight. And I could smell this. This just had a nasty smell to it.
Oh yes, Chayo Blue. Look at that.
You all jerks. You're all a bunch of jerks. Thank you, Troy and Eli. And I believe Dana had something to do with this as well.
Yes.
Oh, so here, established 2012. ChristCentered Ironworks 20 Mule Team Borax may cause excessive irritation to Roy Adams.
That was hilarious, that video last night.
Oh, man. It's getting all over me. It's nasty. Dirty flux. Uh-oh.
Oh.
Is this a golden middle finger that's there too to me or what? Oh, let's see here. This must be my 4G award that I won for best tackle. It's so small. It's a little thumb. I'm going to proudly display this on a shelf in the back of somewhere else.
Not behind the award you got.
Yeah, I'm going to set this behind the other trophy I won. Ding! Right there.
The golden
Ding! Golden thumb! Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Troy and Eli.
So if anybody wants to know the inside joke on all this beautifulness right here, you have
Beautiful
to go watch.
Is such a strong word.
You have to go watch Bar Run Forge. They released the commercial on this morning, a little spoof. So
Yeah.
you have to watch it.
Yeah, you'll have to watch that from Bar Run Forge. So thank you, Troy and Eli and Dana. You all made my evening the other evening. It was funny as all get out. So yeah, in the toilet trophy room. Jeez.
Somebody said Hans was here. Charming Hollow. Good to have you.
Yep. Thank you, Thomas Goodymoot, for the $2 super chat, my friend.
Rob Huff says, rounding hammers from Roy.
Probably not many of those. So I would get yelled at that it wasn't done the right way because I'm not a cheek spreader. I'm not a part of that cool kid group. So
You're an outsider.
I'm an outsider. Oh, yeah. It would be all the wrong dimensions.
All right. Do we want to get onto our business budget slide?
Yes.
Do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's ask them.
All right. Are
Are
guys
you all ready for our budgeting slide?
If you're not, be aware.
Hello. And by the way,
Mind-numbing
Hans
mouth.
popped in, so hello. Hey, Hans. Good to have you in the stream. Long time no seesies.
All right. I'm going to pull it up.
All right. So Jessica set up this very simple presentation of a business budget, right? And starting from the top, we'll just go over the numbers real quick. These are just a purely hypothetical number. Obviously, your numbers would vary greatly from this. You might more, might less. It'll probably be some fraction of a fraction, when you actually have an actual business account at any one given time. But for easy math, we did it this way, or I should say Jessica did it this way. So you got $5,000 in the business account in total. So that's your overall account balance that you may have, say, in a given month. After you've been doing this a while, maybe you have about $5,000 sitting in your business account. Then after that, you take away everything from that amount. Is a good way to look at it is as a subtractive amount of that number. So that's how we've written it up here. So we took out $100 for internet, $85 for phone, $10 for bookkeeping, $500 for pending checks. Say you got to pay out people or pay whatever.
Maybe supplies or materials.
Supplies, depending on you wrote checks, right? Mm-hmm. That could be anything. $50 in office supplies. That's restocking copy paper and the like, ink and things of that nature. $180 of, bottle gas leases, which Jessica might speak a little bit more into that. $500 fuel fund. That would be like for forging fuel and whatnot. And then, $1,000 account minimum and a $2,000 personal draw would leave you with $575 of spendable. So why don't you go a little bit more in depth on how you derived at those numbers, Jessica, in our business budget?
Sure. So as you guys know, when it comes to business, what you have in the account is not all free to spend. A bunch of it's going to be tied up in your bills and things like that. So like the internet, the phone, and the bookkeeping service, those for us are like a monthly reoccurring bill. Your pending checks, that's going to vary based on what supplies and things you may have purchased with a check. Things like the bottle gas leases and the fuel, for us, we purchase those once a year. So instead of saving for it all in once when it's the month it's due, we actually spread the cost out over 12 months. So whatever the yearly bill is going to be, we divide that by 12 and set back that much per month to pay that bill. So in our categories like our fuel fund, we allow that amount to accumulate, and then when we have the full amount to purchase the fuel or just when it's needed, we go ahead and subtract it out of that fuel fund. Yeah. Also, when we also like to keep an account minimum for ourselves, that's not what the bank requires you to do, but it is a good business practice to prevent any fees or anything you might have from overdrawing your account. Yeah. Because they'll really tax you hard if you do that.
And I would like to say that $1,000 I feel is about a minimum for an account minimum on a business, because if you have a client's job go south on you while you're in the middle or the process of working it, and you may have already leveraged out for materials cost in the job, and if something goes south or the relationship goes sour, and now that money that you thought you were going to get is now taken away, right? Or you have to refund somebody. Somebody got something, they were unhappy with it, and say that was a $300 or $400 item. It's really, really going to suck, because it's going to draw off of all the rest of your funds. So what that account minimum is a buffer. It's a big buffer to protect you against those things. Now, as you do larger and larger jobs and you're making more and more money, and that top line item of the total business account, right, that is in your total amount that you have in your business account, the larger and larger jobs, the larger and larger that account minimum needs to become in order to protect your own tail feathers if a client backs out of a job and you were counting on that money there. So, the big things to look at about doing this budget, we also do this budget once a month. So we don't do our budget once a week. We don't do it twice a week or anything like that. We do this budget once a month. And the reason why we do that is because that gives us a good overall look going forward. And as you saw on that slide, at the end of it, we have this amount called spendable. Mm-hmm. What is that? What is that spendable? Mm-hmm. That spendable is what we can spend towards future endeavors in the business. Mm-hmm. So that might be future materials, that might be future gasoline, it might be future tooling, right? Mm-hmm. Ideally, in your account, you would have when you set up your budget, you will have different categories that you're slowly putting a set amount of money into to keep those under control. Like have a tooling fund. Mm-hmm. Your fund's there, it's for tooling. And it may not get a whole lot put in there, but by golly, if you needed something and you got $1,000 in your tooling fund because you've been saving up all year, mm-hmm. right, or for the last 2 years, you don't have to feel any shame about buying that tool, because you're buying it out of your tooling fund. You're not buying it out of your $2,000 personal withdrawal that you need for your own monthly income, mm-hmm. right? You can feel confident, which that confidence leads to you being able to make better business choices and not have to, work in a state of panic mm-hmm. constantly. Like, I don't know how I'm going to make all this go. I need this tool, and if I don't get this tool, I won't get the job done. But if I get this tool, even when I do get the job done, now I won't have any money to eat off of. Mm-hmm. Right? So it helps stave off you having this constant state of panic. And, so a lot of people fail in business because they don't budget all that money that's coming in, mm-hmm. And in the business in blacksmithing period, the way this business works is it's very seasonal, if you will. You're going to have times where you make hands over fists full of cash. And then there's going to be months where you get nothing. And I mean nothing. You're going to go through deserts.
Yep.
And it's a wild ride. And having a budget prepares you for those low points so you can continue moving right on through.
Which one thing I didn't add was savings, but it should have been on there.
Yeah, savings is a good one. Again, we really shorten it down. Originally, I didn't give Jessica enough prepare time. We originally wasn't even going to do a live stream this evening. I was like, I had way too much stuff. I was stressing out about the Jeep and stuff. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just not going to do the live stream tomorrow at all. And so I didn't give her a lot of prepare time. But one of the things I was wanting her to do is take one of our actual monthly budget sheets and try to do a bullet point, to kind of put it up here on a presentation. But then she reminded me that our budget sheets are 8 pages long. So we have 8 pages of how this whole thing called ChristCentered Ironworks, this whole menagerie of things come together. So there is a lot to sort through and go through on that. So you might see things like, okay, insurance, right? Business insurance. Well, yes, that would be in that budget. You would have to budget for that, right? Savings. You would want to budget something for that because eventually you would like to buy those big ticket items, right? In the business. You'll want to have savings. So we kind of broke it down, boiled it down to those kind of core essence just to get your minds thinking about how a budget sheet would be constructed. You would add as many things as you had need or take away as many things as doesn't suit you to that list.
Another thing I didn't make a slide for, but that we do on ours, is we have a whole page that's set aside for upcoming income. So that might be a long-term a job that you've started on, and you need to set that money aside until you've finished the job and the customer's accepted it. And so sometimes you'll have those overlapping and going on. In our specific case, we have income coming in from a variety of methods that kind of tie in with YouTube and stuff. And so, for us, it's greater than it might be if it was just us just selling just ironwork. Yeah,
if we were just selling just ironwork, we wouldn't have 8 pages of stuff to contend with, but that's not all that we sell. I do want to get in here real quick. Frank Strock said, I think Roy has blown through the 575 spendable because of the Jeep. Yes, I have. But that's not out of my business fund. We have a personal budget that we keep separate. We budget out everything personal, and we have a business budget where I budget everything out in the business. And so those two categories are separate, right? We use the Jeep for both, so sometimes we have to draw both. But in our personal category, we have savings for vehicle maintenance and things like that, a fund, right? That we've just slowly been putting money in, and it helps cover some of those costs when they pop up and get thrown up in our face. The other one that I wanted to look at, let's see here.
Here, I scrolled up for you.
Yeah. Charming Hollow said, Roy, you need a trim up the sideburns. I'm letting it grow. Until summer, and then it's going to go right back to the thing. It was Cars Thompson. What kind of refund policy do you have? At what point do you decide that refunding is better than other options? Great question. So it will vary on job-to-job basis. When it comes down to refunds, I don't give refunds often. I used to have, if I have a product that I sell on the regular, right? Let's say you make up ladles. I'm just going to use that as just a generalized example. Or say you have a standard, knife that you offer. That'll be broadly applicable to a lot of people. Say you have a standard chef knife that you offer, and it's the same. It's a cookie cut thing. You've made 100 of them. They all look the same. There's not a whole lot of customization. There's nothing there, right? Other than it's just a standard item that if you receive it back, you can give it a wash and you can put it back on your shelf, right? If somebody said that they just really didn't like it. That is a returnable item, and you got 30 days, just like anything else, right? You give them, because most sites offer at least a 30-day return policy, on your stuff, right? When it comes to customization, if somebody wants something different or not, they're not happy with the way that it looks that they've chose, that is a change order, and that costs them more money to do that.
Yeah.
So if it comes down to it where they're really unhappy with the project, they get partial refund. So they will get basically the refund on my time, my labor, if you will. But what they won't get a refund on is any materials or cost I incurred as a business to make said item that they just decided they weren't happy with. That's how you work out custom type refunds. Now, this boils into that whole Christ-centric portion of the business. I analyze things and I weigh them upon, is this something that I've done to make them unhappy? Is this something that, right? Like, where is this communication thing? If the responsibility falls on me, like, let's say if I let something go out my door and it's an honest mistake on my part, right? Or maybe I was tired and I was angry. I'm like, just put it in the box. It'll be fine. They probably won't notice. And they do notice. I will give them a refund because it's only right. It's only correct. Do you see what I'm saying? I may not be legally required, but it wouldn't be right. I don't like shafting people, right? I don't like people feeling like they got the short end of the stick. I wouldn't want to feel that way as a customer, and I've been put that way as a customer many a times before, right? And so I hate that feeling. It makes you all icky inside. So I'd rather make sure that the customer is taken care of and that they're happy and that the name of ChristCentered Ironworks is protected. The name of the business is more important to me than that one singular job. And that's the way I work it. Generally speaking, it's up the custom orders. There's no refund policy whatsoever on those because they take so much time to make and they are not something I can sell. Like anything where you've stamped their name in it, right? And it's like a permanent feature, right? Or they had some saying that they wanted made or whatever into it, or some special feature that no one in this world is ever going to use anytime ever. There's zero refund policy there. And then you have to take that based upon case-by-case basis. Again, if you screw something up, say they're using that blade and it snaps, it's your responsibility. It's your name that's on that business.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to hold yourself accountable to that and then offer those refunds. And again, having $1,000 budget, account minimum in your business thing to build up to that is very important. Very important for that. So, yeah. My brother, he always calls at the same time. Right in the middle
Live
of the
stream
streaming.
time.
So.
Guess who's calling? He could always be a special guest sometime on the phone.
We'll punch him in. So, go ahead, Jess.
Let's see. Corey, hi, Desert Forge and Ironworks, says, by the way, Roy or Jess, since I came in late, I don't know if you already covered this or not, but have you ever talked or thought about incorporating yourself into an LLC?
We are a LLC.
We are. When we were in Ohio, we went ahead and formed an LLC, and then when we moved, we had to close that LLC and start a new one here under the same name in Michigan. And yes, we briefly talked about that in the beginning with our business startup slide. I have a video that I've done about 3 years ago, and I break it down in 10 steps for starting up your business. So I titled the video specifically, Small Business Startup Checklist in 10 Steps. There's a link to this down in the description below. And I basically go over the 10 steps, whether you're a sole proprietor, which that's the simpler version, or if you want to do an LLC, there's a few extra steps involved. But I go over each of those 10 steps in that video, and that's everything from registering your business name, you know, the different steps that are involved there. It'll be specific to your locality, but, you know, that's kind of the overview. So I highly recommend that video specifically. And along with that, Nolo has a book that is super helpful. I used it when we started up our business, and it's called Small Business Startup Kit, and it is basically just an overview to everything you need to know as a small business owner. So I highly recommend that. Link to that also is down in the description
So let's talk about litigation and lawsuits. That's a good one. And we have to, for obviously legal purposes. We are not your legal advisors. We are not certified accountants, right? All that jazz. Clearly. Hello. Look at this guy. I'm not a financial advisor, right? Like one of those type deals.
Be right back.
Turn that off. Sounds like the furnace is having an issue. Just what I need this week. Turn the switch off, Jess.
I did turn the switch off. It's off to off now.
Up to the right.
It is.
In the hall. Up top. Look behind you. Look behind you. Turn that off. Thank you.
Sorry.
All right. I will have to go check that out here soon.
That was very strange.
The things that you get with live. Oh. Sounds like a locked up blower motor on the furnace.
Ooh.
Just what I need. Just what I need, ladies and
cold
gentlemen.
Night like tonight.
So, remember about them bumps? Oh. Anyways, just like that. Let's talk about lawsuits and litigation.
Yeah.
Now that that's over with, so to protect yourself from lawsuits, litigations, things like that, do your best. First and foremost, that's number one. Number two, document everything. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't think, just treat everybody as criminals, basically. Like that's at the end of the day, just treat everybody like criminals. Number three, stay away from doing things just over phone calls. Mm-hmm. Get it on email.
Yep.
Get it on record. Emails, text messages, record of what's been said, what's been agreed upon, and at all cases, if it's a large dollar amount, get it in writing. So, for instance, in most cases, and this has been told to me by several different attorneys, is that most cases where things are $5,000 and under, as far as a lawsuit amount, they won't even litigate. And the reason why is because it's going to cost you $10,000 to go get $5,000. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's no money in it for the attorney at that point.
In the hole.
And they're just not going to do it, right? There's no money in it for the attorney, and so therefore there won't be any litigation. So in generally speaking, unless you really messed up, and I do mean messed up, and this is where you have to, I've talked about this in the past. If you make a grab rail for somebody and you mount that thing and you installed it, right? Now we're getting into trouble, right? And somebody grabs for that grab rail and it wasn't installed to code and it wasn't installed to spec and you ain't got business insurance and somebody went to grab for that grab rail because they were about to fall off something and it snaps loose on them, it's on you. And so, if your manufacturing techniques are not up to spec, not up to code, it's on you. If you're making flowers, the odds of somebody suing you for a metal rose or a little door handle or something that you made for a cabinet pull, right next to zero. Right next to zero. Not saying somebody wouldn't try, but it's generally speaking right next to zero. When that comes. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't have your insurances, doesn't mean that you shouldn't have those things up to snuff, but you have to kind of gauge it upon what you're doing, right? If you start getting into jobs where you're earning 20, 30K on a job, yeah, they will litigate if something goes wrong. And if they litigate, well, it's on you. If you don't have your business insurance and you don't have those things. And so things like being an LLC, right, that can help out if things don't go your way. In certain cases and instances. It does not prevent negligence on your part. So it does not protect against stupidity, right? So if you go to somebody's house and you're there to install a gate and you run into their Ferrari, you back your truck up into their Ferrari, right? Or you had something loaded on a crane and you dropped it through their skylight of their, $250,000 home, right? It's on you. They don't cover stupidity. The LLC does not cover, right? That it just doesn't. So it's not an end-all be-all. I used to think that about an LLC, like, oh, well, we'll get an LLC and then that'll cover us, right? No need for insurance either. No, not so. The LLC only covers the asset portion of your business is the way of thinking about it. So, am I telling it right, or am I telling
Yeah, you're fine.
flaws? She starts looking at me intently when I start making things up. Huh? She's like, "That's not right, Roy." So, but yeah. So the way to think of an LLC is it helps protect your items, your ability to continue to go to work and not end up going bankrupt completely and have to sell off everything if there ever was a lawsuit, right? But it doesn't protect against negligence. So they can still go after you if they need to. I would say 99.99% of you in this stream right now will probably not get to that point in smithing to where you would have to worry about that. It just, we're not really at that point. We've turned down a lot of work that would have pushed us into that point and got us into that kind of sketchy situation where we need to make sure everything's right as far as legalities and things. A lot of stuff where people go to court over things is because two people bristling up over pride. So be wary in your business. You don't have to let people walk all over you, but be wary of getting too prideful and getting your pride hurt and saying, oh, I'm going to fight this tooth and nail to the end, because it may not end up well for you in the long run. So especially considering your clients most likely have more disposable income than you do. Just the facts.
See, Jeff Killian says, being a bit older here, how do you plan for retirement?
Great question.
Yes.
So we've actually just recently started. I've never been real big into traditional retirement, right? That's never been my thing, because when you look at the math, it doesn't add up to a whole lot until after you've gotten a substantial amount of money into it. I did that, that mentality was a bit of a holdover from a working man, can't get ahead. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. I had that kind of mindset at one time, and that's just it's a really poor mindset to have, because it's not facts. It's not reality. Numbers are numbers. They don't have feelings. They're not sitting there, ooh, well, this one's like Scrooge McDuck over here, and that one, well, he's like Hobo Jones. So, I'm going to give this guy more money. That's just not how that works. If you're not taking advantage of loopholes and everything else like the super wealthy are, that's on you. There's no law against it. It's not like they prevent you from taking advantage of things. It just requires your own diligence and research and doing those things. As far as the investing side of things goes for us, we just started doing some investing for retirement. As that is concerned. So I think it's good to spread your apples out a little bit, right? I don't like having everything in one barrel. Your owning your own home can be a form of retirement, right? It's a form of investment for you, as long as you don't own too much home. Having good assets, things that hold value. Blacksmithing tools surprisingly hold value really, really well. Not saying that you go out there and buy 20,000 anvils or something, right? And that's going to stave off poverty in the future, because you might have a kidney transplant and there went all 20,000 anvils, right?
This reminds me of Honest Bob. Like, I think that was his retirement thing. Like, he had barns full of blacksmithing tools and he was sold off bits at a time.
Honest Bob Cruikshank, man. Yeah, amazing guy. I've talked about his I won't say what his investment was, just in case anybody's listening, but he had quite the investment strategy.
Yeah. I will add on, a lot of guys, they call it their retirement is blacksmithing. Like, just to continue making stuff and starting to sell it, like the money that brings them is going to be their retirement. Like, as you get older, you're going to slow down on how quick you make your items, but you know, you can still go at it. There's guys that are like nearly 90 that are still forging. So, I mean, you can, to some degree, you can still be bringing in money through blacksmithing.
Yeah, and another thing is, once you've been at it for a long time, and I want to get to Charming Hollows Forge's question here. If you've been at it for a really long time and you've got something to offer, teaching is also another great way. You could bring people in. You could run a homeschool group or something like that, right? Or even through your local college or start up some, there's always something you can do. So my investment strategy for the future is generally, I am a hustler, right? Like I'm willing to work, right? From sun up, sun down, if need be, on the business. And I'm going to die with my boots on. That's my plan. I don't plan on going to the grave gracefully. That's not my plan. I don't plan on retiring. The concept for me, and maybe this is much to my generation speaking, is, you know, my concept of retirement is that I want to do something I love and I enjoy, so I don't ever have to retire. I want to do things with value and with purpose, long term. Now that may mean I don't retire super wealthy, right? That may mean I don't make that much money. You know, I might make way less money than I make now. That's perfectly fine by me. It's more about having that value into the future, right? Now that doesn't mean I want to be stupid and, you know, just throw all caution to the wind. Like, I'm gonna be a healthy man forever. I don't believe that way, but I plan on dying with my boots on. You know, that's the easiest way I can explain it for myself. She's much more into a traditional retirement. She's seen that with her parents, and that's what we're adopting here in our own home. You know, so we're throwing some money back at that. Who knows? Is it worth something? I don't care to ever see it. I won't see it in my lifetime because I don't plan on retiring.
To be the one and only thing.
Yep. The goal is not for that to be the one hen that clucks, right?
Right. But we do like listening to Dave Ramsey. So, you know, financial advice-wise, he has some really sound financial advice. Yeah.
So I want to talk about Hans real quick. Charming Hollow Forge. Sorry to make you wait, Hans. Question he had was, Roy, do you ever get frustrated on a project and take a hiatus? And if so, how long is appropriate? So I like this question for a couple reasons, because we can go a couple different ways. If it's a personal project, there's no timeline that is appropriate for if you're frustrated with it, right? I do believe that you should challenge yourself to get back in and work over your difficulty. Because when you get frustrated on something, say you get stuck, right? You get that mental block. Oftentimes it's because you've gotten ahead of yourself. You're so focused on that end product as an artist, right, that you lose your place now. And so things start colliding. They don't work out. Part A doesn't fit in part Z, right? You're like, what is going on here, right? It's like, why am I even doing this, right? And you feel like you're a failure. You want to give up. And so stepping back for a little bit and getting the big picture of it, you need to be looking, that time that you're taking off, you should be looking for where your reset point's going to be, your step one to get started again. So to answer your question, yes, I get frustrated with stuff all the time. I've gotten frustrated with things and I've wanted to throw my hands up and say, give them all their money back. I don't care. I just don't even want to do this anymore, haven't I?
And we have a few times.
And I've done that a few times, much to my own discredit, might I add, right? Like I've gotten to the point where I've just been so fed up with a job. I was just like, give them all their money back. I don't care. I just don't care. I don't want to do it, right? And that can hurt you as a business, clearly, but it can hurt you more on a mental level than you know, right? It can hurt you for other projects. So I don't suggest doing too much of that. My suggestion is to work through it, take a step back to get a breather, and look for what your next step one needs to be. You know, you might be step 87 into this project. None of that matters. Look at that next step one. What's the next step that I'm going to work on? And I don't care whether it takes me a month, it takes me a year to get through that step, but I'm going to dedicate myself to that step until I get it done. And you'll start building steam on the project again. And before you know it, it's done. Whatever it was that was upsetting you is trivial. It's trivial. You could have had it fixed in a couple hours, been fine. Generally, that's what I have found that has held me back in the past on those. Now, as far as appropriate for a client, let's talk about that. You have got to talk with your client and say, you know what, I hit a mental roadblock, right? I hit something where I've just hit a blockage here. I can't do it, right? For whatever reason. A lot of clients can understand, especially when they're dealing with an artist type, they understand that art takes time, right? And so you need to be as professional as you can and let them know that you're going to have to take a break from it for just a little bit to get your wind about you. But you need to do everything in your power to make that client happy in the long run. And if it's going to get drug out over a century, then it's not right for you to hold on to their cash, right? They could have spent it with somebody else, and you just have to let some things go sometimes. Even if you do end up finishing it later on, sometimes you just have to let that go. So I hope that's helpful to you, Hans. Man, I've been there. I've been there a lot of times, haven't I, honey? Mm-hmm. And I've taken some routes where, again, I wish I would have done it differently. And, and then there's other times where I'm quite proud of myself that I persevered and I kind of pushed through, those humps there. You're going way back up, huh?
Yes,
is there anything down at the bottom?
There is. Hold on, I wanted to answer this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Drew Wilson says, how do you plan the medical into all of this? I have 4 kids and y'all have a couple. That's a good question. For us personally, what we do is we have a local medical center that is income based on how much you pay. So we use that method personally ourselves. We've heard good things about Christian Health Share program, but we have not done that one ourselves. And then, of course, there is the government health marketplace thing, that offer options.
I'd like to say that there's a lot more options now for alternative insurance and healthcare situations and things like that than what there was previously, right? It used to be you had to have a good paying job and they had to offer medical benefits, right? Like that's how you knew that you had a good paying job, is because you had, right, medical benefits. Mm-hmm. Right? Like that was worth at least $5 an hour, or so they told you, right? Because, well, you were paying that $5 an hour of your wage into those medical benefits, right? You're into the insurance. So there's it used to be that that's what you had to do, and there really wasn't that many options, right? There was like 3 insurance companies out there that you could choose from that offered medical.
Yep.
And if you didn't fit in those 3, well, I guess you're just a beggar, right? Like, good luck. But what we have found, since we could never afford really those type of insurances, then, we have found a lot of alternative ways of doing it. A lot of times, like with a hospital, people get afraid of this, right? Hospitals know that they won't get a red cent from you if they push you, right? So you can't milk a dry turnip. Well, you can't milk a turnip at all, for those of you who don't know. You can't milk a turnip at all, right? So most hospitals know this. They know this in their accounting. Their prices are inflated because of insurance companies. Their prices are inflated. So when you go in for care and you need care, you say, I am self-pay. Or if you have a state program that you qualify for, that you can work with, and like ours up here, it's based upon your income is what you pay, right? Things like that for your individual visits and your copays and stuff. Since that works out for us, that's how we do it. If it wasn't that, we would say we're self-pay. And, they're going to treat you one way or the other, right? Like they're going to treat you, that's part of that whole Hippocratical oath, right, that they take and stuff like that. They're going to treat you. You might not get the best care in the world because they're not going to do everything, because they can't soak an insurance company for it, right? So if you have no insurance, they're going to give you enough care to keep you stable. That's about it, to where you are no longer their problem and they can discharge you, right, from said hospital or whatever. So it's not as scary as what some people think, where it's like, oh, are we still here? The screen blacked out there for a second. Hopefully we're in good shape. So it's not as scary. It was just the camera screen.
Okay.
It had dropped for a second. So
excellent connection.
So we're good. But anyways, so it's not as scary as like what some people think, like, oh my God, I got 4 kids, and if I don't have this job that offers full medical, then they're going to die next week because of it. That's not generally the case. You know, most people are super healthy. Now, if you've got a kid and they've got a serious, terrible illness or something like that, it may be worth it just to stay doing your job, because self-insuring, paying for self-insurance is high for families. It is not kind. The last time we looked at it was right after Ivan was born to do self-insurance, and it was going to be over $900 a month.
Yeah, and that was for minimal coverage.
And that was for like a very, very minimum coverage. It was going to be $600 just for me. You know, and then it was like 9 something, and then I think it went up to like, it was either 14 or 1700. I forget how we worked the math on it, but that much a month for insurance. So it was not worth it to try to do the self-insure, and then that's what led us to looking for alternative options. So there is alternative options out there. It's just good to do a little bit of research on that, what would work best for your own family thing. You know.
Yep.
Yeah. That's the answers on that.
Jan Moore says, how did you choose the Harrisville area? We didn't choose Harrisville specifically. When we lived in Ohio, we outgrew the space we had, and we had rented there for over a decade. And so it was coming up to either renting or leasing a business space. And I set up on Zillow for it to show us the search results for anything with 5 acres or more, a barn, and a house. And this just happened to be one of the places that came up. And we drove out and we looked at it and we saw it for an hour or two, and we shook hands and we said, we'll take it. And so it just happened to be by chance that it turned out to be Harrisville. The previous year we had made a trip up to the area to see some other places that had come up available in Hillman, which is about 45 minutes away. And that was also, it was by chance that this was in the same area. But the places that we had seen then had sold faster than we had been able to make it up here and look at them. So we felt that God had led us to this place, and he had lined it up just right for it to work out for us.
Yep. Yeah, and so Coffee Studio said that self-pay can hurt. I'm feeling it. Yep, it can. And, you know, when we've been faced with self-pay, when it comes to that before, you know, it is an agreement, right? You're working this out with said hospital, right, and yourself, right? You're working this out. And a lot of times people find this out after a long time. You know, some people find this out that a lot of insurances from companies don't cover you for everything. They don't. They don't cover you for everything. There is a limit. There's an expiration on them covering you for things. I've seen it happen. I've seen guys who paid it out to the hilt, got cancer, were out of job for 6 months or so because they were busy doing treatments and they had it really bad, and then boom, they had to show up knocking on death's door back to work, because if they didn't work, they'd lose their medical coverage. And end up having to be self-pay anyhow. So, or they incurred all sorts of additional costs that were not covered under, whatever insurance program there is. So there's zero foolproof plans out there. People like to kind of lull you into sleep, into thinking that you don't have responsibility, right? Like, oh, don't worry about that. I'll take care of you when the time comes. Oh, don't worry about that. I'll take care of you when that happens. Oh yeah, sure, I got you, bro. Just give me $359.99 every month, and I'll get you. I swear I will. And then when something bad happens, oh yeah, didn't you know there was that little clause right there with that asterisk right at the low, and you just happened to fall into it, wouldn't you know? Right? As whereas if you would have put that same amount that you would have been spending a month, think about it. If I were to spend $900, put $900 back a month, every month, into an envelope, just in case I needed to go to the hospital for something, and you're a reasonably healthy individual, you'd save up a lot of money to cover any sort of little sniffle trips or whatever to the hospital. So, and that's one way of looking at it when, you're self-paying. Other times, it just catches you when you're with your drawers down. There's nothing you can do about it in life, and you just have to, you have to work with what you've been given, right? With the cards that you're dealt, and we have done that before, haven't we?
Yes,
Ooh,
it's
brother.
happened before.
It was rough. So.
Yeah, Corey Shire, MetaShare. That is one of the things. That's one of the Christian Health Share programs that's available.
Yeah, Rob Huff was busy talking about, have you seen my wife cut turnips? That's why I emphasis a dry turnip. Oh, I try not to scroll up too far. We're losing the chat. That's why I'm saying,
Okay.
If somebody has a question, they can keep dropping it in the comment section, and hopefully we can get to it.
Okay. We'll go back to the bottom.
Yep. Yeah. Well, missed it now. I'm forgetting. I was trying to look for the one there.
Dental insurance.
Yep. That's another one. Dental insurance. That's funny as heck.
Yeah.
That's a complete waste of your money. Dental insurance. It's like, oh, give us $1,200 a year for your 2 cleanings you're going to get. It's such a ripoff. So I'm not afraid to say that anymore either. I am not afraid to take and say it like it is, right? These big companies, I'm glad that YouTube is a thing. I'm glad that social media influencers are a thing, because there's a lot of companies out there that are getting caught now finally with their rip-off programs, and they're getting outed. And I like that. I think that's such a good thing. It puts power back in people's hands, because, again, a decade ago, this wasn't even a thing, right? Like, it was like, oh, well, don't like it, don't get it. They own monopolies on things, right? And it's becoming less monopolized, less centralized, which is a good thing. It's putting more choice, more freedom of choice back into people's hands. Just like, for instance, FedEx, you suck. I don't mind telling you that as a company. Reach out. You suck. I've got proof. The dent in my driveway from an anvil being yeeted off the back end of a truck.
Oh, I thought you were talking about when they hit our tree.
Or when they ran themselves and damaged my property by running themselves up under my trees that you can clearly see, right? And having a car wreck on my property while I wasn't here. Any other damaged boxes I've found that's been chucked onto the front porch or otherwise, right? Yeah. Yeah, I have no problem saying that. You suck. FedEx, terrible. Don't ship with FedEx.
We prefer UPS, but
we prefer UPS or USPS. Now, that's our local area, so who knows? Maybe they will send a rep that'll say, hey, wait a second, why are you telling people, FedEx is, sucks? Well, because this is what's happening in our area. And maybe that will get something taken care of, and some change will happen. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what needs to happen anymore. But anyway, sorry, that was a little side tangent, little rant.
Yeah.
I'm still a little about that. But yeah, dental insurance, that's a big one, right? Where are you going?
I was just seeing how many subscribers we're watching.
How many?
65.
We only got 65? Good. It's a good, quiet stream. Everybody can get their questions in there. So, yeah, there's an insurance for everything now. Yeah, that's true.
I think they have pet insurance,
That's very
too.
true.
Yep.
Yep. There's FedEx, so looks like your FedEx driver might have a drinking problem. Just might. She or he just might. So
we did have. That's true. UPS can have their problems too. Last year we had them leave a package at a bridge or something. They marked it as they left it at a bridge, an unknown property.
Yeah.
When there's clearly not a house there, and then we filed a insurance claim on it, and then they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, the truck driver actually has it on his truck." It's like, why did you mark it as dropped off then? But,
the difference is the UPS sales rep is always calling us. Let us know how we can help you with your business. See, that's the difference, right? FedEx never called us. They're just like, they're flying the bird as they drive by and yeeting packages to our porch from 100 yards away.
Sleep slingshot deploy.
I'm unhappy with FedEx, but and that's how it is. I think that if more people again who have that public thing and they have a voice and they stand up and they say stuff, well, guess what? Things change, because it's a bad look. It's a bad look. What's going on there, girl? You ready to move on to the next thing?
Yes.
What are you doing?
Job breakdown. We have two
job
more slides
breakdown.
left.
Oh, we got two more slides left. Is everybody having a good time? Let's ask that first.
I don't know. Maybe we put them to
Scroll
sleep.
down. Maybe we put everybody to
That's
sleep.
as far as down as it goes.
Yeah, Edwin Parsons. I will check on that furnace.
Yes, it is
For
chilly
long,
here. I feel
so.
it cooling off already.
Yeah, we can feel it cooling off. Yeah, I do have a propane little portable propane heater I can go get from the barn and bring in if need be, just to keep things warm for the evening. But benefits of having a small house, 900 square feet. If I was in the Roy Mansion, that wouldn't happen.
Better have like 5 stoves in the place.
Yeah. Well, Eric Grover said, "Yep, they're having a good time." I think everybody else is bored to tears. So.
Well, all right. We'll give you something to go to sleep on. It's the job breakdown.
Yeah, job breakdown. We should have had special effects, sound effects with this. Job breakdown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a really deep voice.
Yeah. So a general job breakdown for us looks something like this. It's consumables. There's materials for the job. That's different than consumables. Time. That's a big one. Time, as you can see, it's a heading over everything that comes after. Design work, communication, creation, finish work, and shipping. That's all under that time heading. I said consumables is different from materials for a job, right? So, for instance, say you're making a copper baptismal. That's something that I know of quite a bit. In consumables for the job, I'm going to have things like grinding wheels, buffing compounds, right? I'm going to have, work with saw blades potentially, right? There might be hammers, or especially hammers I need. The main thing will probably be all the grinding and specialty wheels to buff it. There will be paint, right? Those are consumables, if you will, right? Those are things that just get consumed regularly. Your materials are separate from that. So the materials is the raw cost of the materials itself, the job materials, for instance. So in the copper, speaking of which, a large copper plate right now costs about $1,400 for a 3-foot by 8-foot. And thank you, Simeon Bueller, for the I'm enjoying this stream for $5. Thank you. Glad you're enjoying it. And I'm glad everybody else says they're enjoying it too. So, but yeah, so materials for the job, if you had to go out and buy a brand spanking new sheet, right, of copper, say you don't have any on hand, you're going to have to cost that into the job. So that whole 4x8 sheet might have to be costed into that job because you can't take it from elsewhere, right? But your consumables, those are addition. Generally, your consumables, you can get extra life out of, so they can go across multiple jobs. Sometimes your materials, in the event of a copper sheet, you can get maybe 2 jobs out of that. And that will help you out a little bit, but regardless, you still charge or you cost out that job as if you had to buy a brand new sheet. And then time, you can choose whether you want to do design work or not for time. You can choose whether you want to charge for your time for your design work. If it's a very large job, then you may have to do that, and we're talking probably $10,000 plus for design time. Communication, that is just part of the business, but you're going to have a lot of that. Jessica, you take over on communication. How much customer communication in hours do you think you have per job?
Yeah, it really depends from customer to customer, and it varies so widely, especially if they are just selecting an item that you have pre-made and they're asking for it to be altered a bit. you're probably going to have maybe 5-6 emails back and forth with them. But if you have a customer that is wanting a whole new item that you've never offered before, you could be 20 emails deep with them trying to figure out and work out the exact details. Also, some customers are better at outlining what they want, more so than others. So if you have somebody who's more of a generalized, person, trying to get them to be upfront about their expectations, you have to fish it out of them with questions, and so that's where you have a lot of back and forth. So really, it varies from job to job.
Yep. So creation, right? That's where you have the Thomas consumable. So, So if you have a laborer helping you, a friend or whatever that you're giving them, a spiff off the job, maybe, you have the creation time of the actual work. So that is part of everything. So if you have laborers working with you, or if you have a business partner, right? All of this in time, right? Or if you're paying somebody to do drafting work or things like that, that's all part of the creation portion of that element. And that's where your time is, plus your own personal time that is in that creation and development of the actual product itself. As far as forging, since we are blacksmithing focused here, forging represents probably 30 to 40% of the actual work that goes into a job, and then the rest is actually in finishing work for the most part, and a super small percentage in shipping. That's kind of like just the cherry on the top to make sure everything gets done right. So there's probably 5-10% there of your time is represented by shipping, depending on the work. But your finished work, by and large, is the largest portion of the time when you're taking and doing custom iron work, because without a proper finish on it, it's going to go to rust and you're going to get a lot of callbacks. So
switch over.
Yep.
And one other thing there, the shipping too, a lot of times you guys may not think about the time involved in shipping, but if you are shipping something that's an unusual size, or if you're having to make a wooden crate to send it in because it's very heavy or sharp, or, for whatever purpose, you are going to have time and even materials in packaging it for shipping.
Yep. And you do have to keep that in mind, right? So when you're costing these things out, that all just sounds like a lot, right? It sounds like a lot to do. The best way that you can learn all this really is by doing, right? And think about it this way. Everything goes to scale. If you are shipping this pencil, right, it has a certain amount of logistics involved in sharpening the pen, making the pencil, sharpening the pencil, wrapping the pencil, shipping the pencil, right? It takes a certain amount of communication about the pencil, right? There's a certain amount of logistics that are involved in this, right? And so you can start with this. It may sound super complex, like, man, there's just so much work into running a blacksmithing business. And there is a lot of work. But don't let it scare you off, so to speak, because you start small anyhow, right? You're starting small. You might be selling blow darts or whatever it may be for you, right? Like, I don't know what it is. Coffee spoons. It could be S-hooks or little J-hooks or horseshoe nail hooks or anything. And you're going to find that you have a certain amount of logistics in that. Well, that all scales proportionally. Mm-hmm. It does. If you can't make something work at $1, right? If you can't make it work at $1 and you're losing $5, or if you got $1 but you're losing 5 cents per dollar, something is wrong in your logistics, right? Mm-hmm. That you're not quoting it right. Mm-hmm. That gives you a chance on that dollar item to figure out your logistics on a very small scale, right? Mm-hmm. A minute scale. And then once you get those logistics figured out, and that's where we came up with the rule of 33, right? Mm-hmm. The rule of thirds. That's the very oversimplified version of our budget, mm-hmm. of breaking a job down. It's in thirds. Mm-hmm. And that's just a general simple rule to get you started in the right direction. So on a hook that costs us $1, you're going to make, again, 33 cents is going to go back to buying another hook, and the materials and the costs and all those consumables and things like that into making your little nail hook or whatever that you're making for $1, right? 33% is going to go out in the taxes and all the other stuff that's going to go out with another 33 cents, right? And then you're going to bring home 33 cents that you can live another day in your business and eat off of, right? And then you're going to have a little 1% as play money out at the end, or your little spendable, right? That you can go do whatever you want with. Save it for a rainy day, right? So you can do that down to a pencil scale, and you can scale that all the way up to managing a $100,000 job someday. It all goes at scale. The logistics cost raise, but so should, if you've got that figured out for yourself, so should so all the logistics and profit and everything should come up the same as a scale. It's lock, stock, and barrel. So if you can manage your money down to as small as a penny or $1, we'll make $1 because you can break that down in easy divisible numbers. If you can start down at $1, you can manage $100,000. But you got to start small there. You got to start small there. So don't let it intimidate you out of doing a business. You say, well, there's all these things to think about. Again, you're like, well, I need business insurance. You've sold $200 in the last year in items. You don't need business insurance, right? Like, whoa. Cart before the horse, right? Like, look at what you're selling. It's not even, it's like simple stuff, right? It's like hair clips or something, right? Like, there's not, you get what I'm saying? So I don't want to recommend that you don't get business insurance. You probably should get business insurance, as I have to say for the internet. But that's the point, right? Like, you don't want to get the cart before the horse. You have to learn to be able to scale everything up as you go. The pencil. Wow. My high school teacher used that analogy. Dragonstone Gym and Ironworks, aka Mr. Crawford, said, at Roy Adams, how do I go about getting me a box of that ChristCentered Ironworks super F word in the Achaio blue box Troy sent me? I can just send it to you.
Well, it'd actually be lighter if you just
I've got
bought
an
the
extra box here. I could probably send you.
I was going to say, they could just get with Dana, and Dana could send a sticker.
Yeah, Dana could send you a sticker.
Apply that on a box.
Yeah, JJ Jones said, what's the shipping cost on that flux? A lot.
It'll last you forever if you use it like Roy uses it.
Did I get that right analogy?
I suppose.
What do you say? Yeah,
about the pencil.
There you go. Yeah, about the pencil. Sure. Analogy. I don't know if there's the joke there. Like, did I get that right? I don't know. How long were you in school for? Did you spell it right? Couldn't tell you. No, but yeah, so when it comes down to breaking down a job, it's good to look at things sometimes in reverse order to come up with quoting, right? Because it comes out, how much do I charge for myself? That is a zillion and one question. And that's the $1 million question, right? How much should I charge? How much should I charge? How much should I charge? This is the important thing about having a budget. If you don't have a budget, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know where you're going. You don't have a solid platform to stand on to say which way you need to go and what is going to take you there in the future, right? Because you might need to charge $100 an hour, but you're doing $2 an hour work just by the product you're offering. And it takes a long time and it's not worth a lot. So you have to kind of analyze first what it is that you need personally, and how do you know what you need personally unless you do a budget. Yep. You got to have that budget locked in.
Right, and then you can figure out what percentage of your time that it would take to do that job.
Yep, and then you can see what percentage of time and everything that would be included. So you always have to do backwards math, and nobody, myself, Jessica, anybody on the internet, anywhere, can tell you what exactly you need to make per item. Can't. There's not a universal rule for that. So if you use a rule of thirds, that's a very quick rule of thumb to figure out what a job should be. Really is. On $1,000, you're going to make $330. Is that enough? Does it take you a month to make that $330? Can you fit anything else in that $330? If you got to make $3,300 a month to survive, right, in your particular locale, just to survive, well, you got to bring in 10 jobs that you complete every month that are at least $1,000, right? That's the simple hard truth and the math of it, right? If you want to look at that math, and then that will guide you to what you need to do, to make more or less income and price your work accordingly, and you've got to have small stuff. So, that $1,000 in jobs could be all smalls. Those could all be dollar items. You just got to make 1,000 of them, right? I mean, that's how it is. So it's fairly simple math to get you there quickly to figure out where it is. My average shot rate, I get asked this all the time. My minimum shot rate is 100 an hour, and that's about to go up actually. It's 100 an hour. If I'm going to work on something for you as a client, it's 100 an hour is the way I rate that. Now, there are jobs that I make way less than that. I make pennies an hour. And there's other jobs where I make way more than that. I make 1,000 an hour. The average I need to make, though, in order for us to keep our heads just slightly peeking above water, at least the nostrils out, right, is that 100 an hour shop rate. And so that's everything included, as if you have to go to an hourly deal. So does that mean I get $100 an hour in my pay? Because that sounds great, right? If I were a salesman, if I was trying to sell you, buy my how to be a professional plan, and I was shilling you something, right? It would be behoove me to tell you that you can make 100 an hour, right? Just follow these steps. Buy now, right? I could do that, but that's not the reality. The reality is you start at, say, 100 an hour shop rate, and then your percentages come out of that.
Yeah, so if you're going off of the 33%, your take home, then that's $33 an hour.
Yeah, so then that's 33 an hour, and that's not taking into consideration that you're not going to be working all those hours.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of
that's a
unchargeable hours.
Yeah, there's a lot of unchargeable hours.
With the communication and the design sometimes,
Exactly, exactly. So that's just, it's one way of looking at it. Is it the way? No. Is it the right way? Who knows? It's our way that we've come up with for our own business, so it's the only thing that we can really speak upon. There are some people, they chart stuff out and graph, and they go so deep down the rabbit hole on counting pennies that they're completely lost and useless to society. They've done ascended to another level in a plane, right? But that's not us. We have practical
to spend too much time learning and not any time applying.
Yeah, because ultimately, if you're not making ironwork, you're not making money. At the end of the day, if you're not making, I should say, good ironwork, you're not making money. You got to get out in the shop. You got to get moving. You got to make it. You got to keep. You got to forge it and post it. Forge it and post it. Forge it and post it. Forge it and post it, and keep that train running, right? And then on the logistical side of things, right? Again, you figure that out so it scales with your business. You figure it out at that dollar item, it'll scale to the $100 item or the $1,000 or $10,000 item, right? It will scale with you as you grow as a business. And it will help you highlight things that you just really don't need to get into. I had a job come up. It was going to be a balcony, okay? It's for a client I've already done work for. This was probably going to be every bit, if I quoted it, it was going to be every bit a $20,000 to $30,000 job, probably as a bare bones minimum. It was a very long balcony. It had a lot of heavy steel in it. It was going to be a lot of contracting work, and it was for one of his summer homes down in, I don't know. It's somewhere in the south.
Yeah.
Right? Somewhere in the south. I forget exactly what location it was at. But it was a second story balcony, a terrace, if you will, that he wanted to be created. And right off the jump, so knowing math, right, money, I might think to myself, ooh, man, that's a good job. I'm really hurting right now, too. I could use to pay some bills, right, and things like that. Tempted. Oh, man, tempted, huh? Ooh, we could make some money here. That could be a power hammer. $30,000, right? Whoa. Back that truck up. No. That terrace job was going to take at least 4 months to work on. Let's back that truck up. How much are we making? If you just do our rule of thirds, right? How much are we making?
Third of 20,000.
A third of 30.
6,000.
If make it easy enough,
Okay.
a third of 30,000, right? 10 grand for 4 months. Wait a second, right? Hold the phone. That's only $2,500 a month. But what risk am I taking? What are the logistics going to cost? What are the unforeseeables going to cost in that job?
Right, traveling out of state.
Traveling out of state.
Traveling with a giant terrace, you have to rent something.
Yep, exactly.
Semi, probably.
Hauling something that was going to weigh well over 2 tons
Equipment
of steel.
rental to install
The equipment rental, the working with the inspectors, working with an engineer on the project, right? There's going to be work. There's going to be a lot of work, a lot of back and forth, a lot of flying down to wherever it was there in the south, right? There's going to be a lot of additional costs in that.
Some hired hands, probably.
And you know what? I'm not getting paid for any of that. I'm not getting paid for any of that. I was a one-guy shop. I'm a one-guy shop. What am I going to do? Yeah, I could weld on it. I could kind of position it myself. The logistics at home. How am I going to get it out of my shop?
Right, where in the shop would you build it?
I know where I'd build it. It would fit in my center section of my shop, but still, the logistics of moving around heavy I-beams and doing all the additional ornamental work to it. Very quickly, I realized in order for me to quote that job and for me to stay above board, I couldn't do it. For me to get paid what I would need to do to take on the amount of risk to do that job would have been obscenely expensive, right? We're talking the price of a new house in California expensive, right? In order to take on the risk, because I would be under severe risk. The amount of insurance I would have to have. The amount of additional insurance coverage I would have to have to work on a project like that, a second-story terrace, right? That if it fell off of the building,
right,
and crushed something, right? Like, you know what I mean? You're gonna take on those risks, and so therefore, using that simple math, that formula, I was able to really quickly decline the job, even though I wanted it, even though it's a good customer, a good client of ours. Love them to death, wouldn't mind working for them in the future. I just had to be honest with hat in hand and saying, hey, this is just out of my wheelhouse. Logistically, I cannot take on the work.
Yeah, so we recommended them to someone we knew.
Yep, we recommend them to somebody else we knew who has a crew, who has the space, who has done work with engineer firms before, right, who has the logistics in place to get the customer a better deal. And I hope that worked out well for them, and I hope they got together, and I hope the whole thing worked out good. And that's only going to look as a credit to us in the future. But you'll know you get what I'm saying? So it's at scale. You'll see how the logistics scale on that. The more and more you do it, And that starts at $1, and then you go up to really big money. And then sometimes you just have to walk out. Sometimes you have to walk away from a job. It's the way it works.
Corey Shire says, and that is going to push back the delivery time frame on any other orders you may already have, which makes other people wait longer for their stuff.
Exactly. So for instance, in that case, So I was offered, many people don't know this, I was actually offered to go on Forge and Fire. I was. They sent out that to a whole lot of people, so I don't feel like I'm special in any way. Well, especially with Forge and Fire. I don't feel like I'm special in any sense of the word there. They were wanting to, for some new show, I think they've already come out with their show and stuff that was their new version of Forge and Fire, whatever they were doing. I won't get trucked down in too much of the weeds of the storytelling on it. But it was an opportunity, right? Or it could be seen as an opportunity. The difficult thing is they needed 2 weeks out of me in 1 month, and they needed 2 following weeks if I would have progressed to further rounds of competition. They needed 2 weeks out of me in 1 month, and then they needed an additional 2 weeks out of me in another month. Okay? So what were those months? Those are my highest grossing months of revenue traditionally in the business. So the offer was go be on television, potentially win, again, just a chance at this, $10,000, right? Or I think it was more than that. It was like, what?
I think it was 50,000.
It was at 50,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's have a chance at winning $50,000, or I could do 20,000 in those 2 months if I just stay home and work on orders. I chose to stay home. Right? The 20,000's almost a sure bet. The 50,000 couldn't be further from my mind, right? Not a blade maker. So knowing what you've got for math, right? Again, just like, you know, High Desert Forge and Ironworks was saying, right? Think about all the jobs you would have not been able to do and would have pushed out their deadlines on. So same thing in that job. Again, remember, I'm only making $2,500 a month for the original quote I was thinking that it would be. I make way more than that, right, in the business to keep everything up and running, doing anything else, right? So if I have to scratch off for $5,000 a month to make $2,500 a month in that time frame, didn't make sense, right? And so if you know those logistics, it really takes and helps you. It really takes and helps you out decide what's a good thing for you, what's a good fit for your business, and what things are not a good fit for your business.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, I've got one other slide to go on.
Yeah.
And I think we'll probably have to get off soon because we've been on 2 hours and 39 minutes. But
Well, there's no time frame that we have to get off, but we'll go to the next slide, yeah?
yes.
Yeah. You
So-
worried about that furnace?
No, just dinner. It's getting close to 8 o'clock.
Yeah, just dinner. Yeah.
Dinner. Oh, I
guess-
should be worried about the furnace.
I suppose we do have to eat. So,
We do.
It's all right. You know, you are married to an old furnace man, right? You know, used
Yeah.
to be in furnace work.
You got this. Not that you want to, but
No, I don't want to. That's the thing. But I don't want to be a mechanic either.
no.
But here I am.
Jack of all trades, as they say.
Yeah, master of one. Go ahead.
All right.
Continue.
Yes.
Okay, next
My
slide.
last slide is on tax deductions, which of course will be coming up on tax season, so I'm sure it'll be on everybody's mind before long anyhow. I wanted to touch on some of the things that are tax deductions. In case you haven't, if you haven't looked into this just yet and you're wanting to what would be the benefit of me having my business, registered as a sole proprietorship or an LLC. And by doing that, that allows you some tax deductions. And so say, even if you work a regular 9-to-5 job, and then you're doing doing blacksmithing on the side and selling some things, you can actually take and apply some of those tax deductions towards the amount of money that you're bringing in from your regular day job, and thus lowering the amount of tax that you have to pay into the IRS. Now, your accountant would know, better for your specific situation, but it does work that way. So some of the things that you can take as tax deductions, you can take your supplies. That would be just your general supplies that you need in the shop. It might be consumables, things like that. You can also take your materials cost, also known as cost of goods sold. That would probably be like your steel, your copper, if you buy rivets, things that actually go into making the project itself. There is also some allotments that allow for business use of your home, which you have to have a designated space that you're using, specifically for the business. It's not like you've taken and popped a computer on the side of your living room and now you're claiming your living room as, business use of your home. That doesn't work. It has to be, a space specifically for your business. And they have allotments around that. Office supplies, if you have a printer for printing labels, paper, things like that, that would fall under that category. Your advertising, that would include things that if you're running ads or paying extra to help, Facebook, you can do some advertising there. That would be your advertising portion. Also, business meals. So if you're out eating somewhere and if you are discussing business, they allow you to take a 50% deduction on meals where you're out and discussing business. So that could be handy for you if you happen to eat out a lot, and just make sure while you're out, you're talking about something that relates to your business, and even go as far as, once you have your receipt, like just jot down a little brief note to yourself on the back what you were discussing. Also, there is quite a bit of money you can get in tax deductions on your vehicle. And there's two ways that they allow that. That can be your actual vehicle expenses, which you have to have a dedicated vehicle for business to do that version. So that would mean, you have to have another vehicle available to you for your personal use. And then, the vehicle that you're wanting to put into business use, that would be, that you're using regularly for business related, running supplies and things like that. Or you can take the standard mileage rate, which allows you to, the rate for 2022 is 58.5 cents a mile. So for taking this one, you have to keep a log in your car, and you jot down your starting odometer, your finishing odometer, or there's even apps that make this even easier, so you don't have to write anything. But then, like what you did, what you were out doing while you were claiming that business mileage, and then your accountant will ask if you have a log, and then they just notate it on your tax form. So those are some of the deductions that are available to you if you have a small business or if you're doing a sole proprietorship. And again, those can help bring down your overall amount due to the IRS. And if you wanted to learn more about those, I believe that NOLO goes into those in the one book I recommended earlier, which was the Small Business Startup Kit. And then they probably have a book specifically also on deductions for small businesses.
Back to the main camp. There we are. I wanted to answer some questions real quick.
Yes.
You can just scroll up just a tiny bit.
Okay.
I wanted to first make the laugh and the funny. That's why I turned down the Miss America gig from Rob Garman. Granddad's Forge. Man, you would have been a shoo-in. You would have had my vote. Oh. Oh, and then also Edwin Parsons, to answer your question, Roy, have you always lived on budget and budget your work before you got with Jess or after you met her? So we actually met before we were even out of high school. So we both met when we were 16. I'm a little older than her, so I was 17, she's 16, and then we ended up getting married at the age of 18 together, and then moved out to Ohio originally. So we have always, from moment one, from leaving parents' house and things like that, had a budget from another one. Now, it was a personal budget. I worked in heating and air conditioning for quite a few years when we first got married. And so, we had just a standard budget. Like you would have a paycheck that came in, and then we just budgeted all of our bills. We had categories set up.
Yes, the if you've heard of Dave Ramsey and his envelope method, that's what we did. We went to the bank, we got the cash, and we divided up into our envelopes. And then when it was time to buy something, if you didn't have, you could only spend up to the amount of money available in the envelope.
That was in the envelope. Oh, yep, exactly. So we had an envelope system, an actual envelope system, long even before we ever even heard of Dave Ramsey, too.
Yeah.
Because it was just something that we did, right? And so, and that turned out that was a great thing for us at first. We didn't always see eye to eye on it, how big an envelope should be or what we should be spending things on. But, that's kind of how that's always been for us. And we've done terrible job at keeping bookkeeping before, huh?
Yes,
and
we've
stuff,
gone through multiple iterations of how we've budgeted.
Yep.
Because there's been times where it's been time to look at the budget and we're like, wait a minute, how did we overspend several $100s? Like, what happened here? We had a plan, what happened? So there's been definitely times where we have had to okay, scratch this. We've got to start with a whole new system.
Yep. And a lot of that came down to us not being honest with ourselves, right? About what it is that we need, right? And what we need to prepare for in the future, right? Like, for instance, if you have tires on your vehicle and you're not saving up for tires on your vehicle and your tires go out, that's kind of on you, right? Like, tires will need to be replaced at some point in time, right? So you should be saving up for tires on your vehicle, right? Like gasoline, it's not a surprise that your vehicle takes gasoline, right? So you should have a budget for gasoline, right? And a lot of our stuff was we were just kind of budgeting our big bills because it was the simplest, right? Like your gas, your electric, your rent, your whatever, right? Like your basic, your common, your heat, your AC bill, right? That's what we were budgeting. And then we were spending what should have been in all of our miscellaneous bills, right? All the things we didn't think about. So we were always getting caught all of a sudden where we got hit with a bill for whatever, right? Or a medical bill, so to speak, right? Like, oh, every time our kids had the sniffle, that was $270 for the doctor to tell us our kids have the sniffles. Right? Stuff like that. We were getting slammed with those things. And then we were just like, we had this extra money in miscellaneous and we weren't being honest with ourselves, so to speak, right? With our budget. We weren't being brutally honest. And so therefore, that led to a lot of things where, I don't want to call it it's basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. We were buying into next month's income already. Right? Like, so all the money that was coming in from jobs.
And then paying a bill with it right away.
Yeah, we were waiting for a job, and as soon as the job came in, we paid a whole bunch of things that we had already spent. We paid for our bad behavior. And at the end of every month, we had jack nothing to work with.
And we were hoping. Uphill fight.
And it was a constant uphill fight.
It always felt like things were ready to crash and burn.
Yep, exactly. And it could happen at any day. And we had a couple moments in time that happened out of the blue that really stuck it to us good. And it gave us that kind of enough is enough kind of mentality. And sometimes you have to have that. You got to get spanked occasionally to have that mentality of enough is enough. And that's basically what happened. We went on a trip once. We went out to go see your folks. We thought we had enough money. We thought, man, we're so grand. We're making all this money. It's all coming in. We're good to go. Boom. Let's go. We got enough money in the account because we just did it off of, we got enough money in the account. So in the business account. So why not? Let's go on this trip. We'll talk business along the way. It's a write-off, right? Job. Somebody had basically somebody had seen and disputed the charges.
Their
so
spouse
their
didn't
spouse
realize what the charge
disputed
was for.
the charge, right? And at this time, it's silly to think about now, but at the time it was just a $500 charge, right? And it was like the final payment on a job. I think it was. It was like the final payment. It was like we did half and half, so it was a total of $1,000 job. And then the wife of the guy who didn't get with the wife because it was a present disputed the $500 charge on their credit card, and they instantly took the money back from us out of our bank account. And we overdrafted. Right? Because we were spending money that we thought we had while we were on this trip, and we come back to like a Zippo, right, in the account. In fact, we were in the negative in the account because we were overdrafted, and that was a nightmare.
It was,
wasn't it? We couldn't pay rent
huge.
when we got back. It was like right at the first of the month too, and it hit like a stinker at the very end. And that's where that $1,000 account minimum came into play, right? And that was our first step moving towards that. It's like we got to have minimal 1,000 in the account to cover to buffer if a $500 job were to go south on us and go sideways. That hurt. That hurt us for months. It took us months to recover off of that because again, $500 is $500. It's a lot of money. You know, and some people might not see it as that much, but you know, when you're only making $20,000 a year, right? $500 is a lot, right? Like that's a lot. That's hurtful, you know? And so that was one of the times. And then another time we ended up having a client back out of a job completely that we had already had money fully up front, and that money was spent. And it highlighted that other bad behavior of ours. And we were just like, oh, no. And so I had to actually work and complete a whole bunch of other jobs, right? Just to pay him back. And then I had no money at the end of the month for my rent or food or anything else. And I had to completely cream out my account minimum. It had to go to zero. I mean, it took everything to zero. Just for us to make it by that month. And that was the final, like, enough is enough kind of thing for the budgets. And then after that, we got real serious. Very serious. Well, semi-serious. It took us a while, several iterations. It took us, and we're still evolving our budget as we go. We're on probably our 10th iteration now of our budget. And we keep adjusting it as we find those little things, those little barking dogs that add up, right? You know, in your life. And we're like, you know what? We're going to budget for that. Like, yeah, it's only a $20 a year thing, but by golly, every month, right? I'm going to add.
$1.12.
I'm going to
$20.
$1.12 or whatever it is, right? Is that what it is? Yeah, 1/12 of that $20 we are going to put back every single month to make sure that $20 bill don't come out and nip us. Because you know why? They do. Oh, when Murphy strikes, he strikes while you're laying on the ground coughing up blood, right? You've already been kicked by the world. And he's like, ha, here's a football kick to the face. You know, so it's always best to have a budget that way. We're real big proponents of it.
And yeah, that's, so when we mentioned earlier, we do like a monthly budget. To expand on that a little further, what we do is our sales that come in 1 month, we allow to accumulate in the bank account all month long without spending out of that portion. And then we, at the very first of the following month, we look and say, okay, what was our total sales after everything? And then, you know, and then we budget for that month. So for example, all month January, whatever our sales were accumulated in the bank account, you know, we had already had a written budget from the previous time cycle, and so we knew how much spending Roy could do, and then I keep track of that as we go.
So it's always a month ahead.
Yes.
You're always feeding over to your next month. So.
So so the sales that we received this month, all month in February, we look at them on March 1st, and then that's dictates what our budget is in March.
And this is a power tip for you guys out there. If you get serious in wanting to do a business as a blacksmith, if you learn nothing else from this stream, budget well, right? Like that's it. That's number one. And then remember this power tip. This is one thing that's really helped us out a long time. And again, I feel so blessed to be where I'm at right now. God has blessed us richly, and I've got to give glory where it's due. This tip is, take whatever you've got at the end, and that's spendable, and look at your next month's budget. What is that budget for us? We fixed a budget, right? So we say, okay, we're going to have a fixed amount of expenditures in the business, and there's that is a budgetable items that, we can see, right, that are foreseeable. Remember, we already got categories set up. on our business side of things, right? Just like we have in our personal column. But always be paying ahead. So if, let's say at the end of our budget sheet, right, I have $2,000 sitting extra. I don't spend that $2,000 like I would want to spend those things. I deny that. I deny that to myself. I don't say, oh, well, now I can just go out there and get this and that, and ooh, and look at that shiny little trinket or that toy or this or that, right? I don't. My very first thing I look for is what's next month's budget look like. What is our gap? And there's always a missing element to it. We know that we're getting a certain amount of money in, certain jobs are closing, right? There's a certain amount there, and it's always like, oh, well, I might be lacking, say, $1,200, right, in next month's budget. I don't just trust that over this next month now, I will make up that deficit of $1,200. No, I have $2,000 now. I'm going to pay ahead to next month. I'm going to set aside that $1,200 deficit to bring it to zero, so I'm fully funded for the next month. If you do that, you're constantly rolling over. It's a way of constantly rolling over your big jobs, and it's constantly setting you a specific notch on your belt that you're going to work within. It gives you a constraint, right? Because if you get a good month, like I said, you get into your good months where you got about 4 months of really good solid sales, but then you're eating crow for the next, 9 months, right? The next 8 months, you're eating crow. You need to have those roll over, right? You need to have them roll over into your further months and your future months. So this way you can be protected long term. And that's how we do it. That has been a big benefit to us, hasn't it, hun?
Yeah, it has been.
And that's the way you should do it. I mean, I think you should do it. It's been a huge blessing for us to be able to do it that way, and I hope some of you will take that on and try it. Try it. See what happens. You live on less than what you make, and you pay ahead to the next month. And you keep doing that, it's like compounding interest. It is. Eventually you have more money and more money in your spendable. Put it to you this way. 3 years ago, or say 2 years ago when we moved up here, right? 2+. We're coming up on our 3rd year here, right? I started with, we got real super serious. I mean, super serious about our budget. After everything was said and done, after being super truthful about everything we had, counting up all of our bills and what they were all going to cost, all the costs of the business, right? It was bad, wasn't it? I was having the first 3 months of the year, of year 1 living here, I had a $60 spendable a month. $60. You know what that is in a blacksmithing business? Absolutely
like a pack of flap discs.
Nothing. Nothing. That means Roy wasn't buying nothing. I wasn't buying consumables. I was living off of what was already in the business. And if it wasn't in the business, I wasn't doing it. Right? Nothing. I had to tighten my belt. And so, first month was $60. The second month I had $65. The third month, right? And again, this is me rolling over whatever we were deficited for the next month. That's what took me down to $60. Usually I would just spend that amount, right? I just spend that amount. But just rolling it over. Then all of a sudden I had $75 within the 3rd month. And then the 4th month I got up to $100 spendable. And then by the end of the year of that first year, my average spendable was about $400. Income didn't really change that much. I just lived on less in the shop. I lived on less than like, oh, I've got to have that, otherwise I can't work today, right? I tightened my own belt on it, on my own budget, and all of a sudden things started popping off. My savings started growing. the account minimums start growing in the account, right? Before you know it, you know, those things are covered. Those barking dog bills that pop up out of nowhere and get you, right? Or an occasional client that wanted to, you know, pull out on a job didn't hurt me because I already had that buffer zone built in, right? I wasn't counting on their month. I wasn't robbing Peter to pay Paul for it. And then again, and it kept going. And then so year two, average spendable has been over $1,000 because we've kept rolling. We've kept rolling in spendable alone. In just that final spendable amount. But that's because we've been diligent for 2 years of doing that. Even when it hurt. Yeah. Even right now in the lull. In the slump, right? We're in the slump. And as you could tell, oh boy, don't I have the slump. I've got a furnace blower that's went out. I've got a Jeep up on jacks. But I've got a lot of great friends on YouTube that are listening to this financial advice from somebody who's oh so affluent here. Sitting in his 900 square foot home in northern Michigan with a broke truck and a broke furnace. Jessica, now's your time to leave me.
I was gonna step
we don't
away
have
for
a
a moment.
We don't have a dog. We don't have
timing.
a dog, but we need to get a dog just so he can die. You know, and I'll have a country song.
Milk Dud has 9 lives, so you're good there.
So again, if I can do it that way, you can do it too. It's practical advice, and that's why it's crucial. And again, I'm harping on it as a business for it's incredibly important because so many people get into it, they don't budget right, they spend up all their money before the next month's on, their bills pile up, they didn't get the job that they thought they were going to get, and then they go on with the rest of their life as a Sour Patch Kid saying, oh, you can't make money as a blacksmith, there's no money to be made anymore as blacksmithing, you can't get into it, oh, market's saturated, oh, it's flooded with people. All hogwash. It's all hogwash. They probably had a bad experience because they didn't do something right. They didn't market enough, they didn't budget enough, and then they ended up going flop, right? And there's occasions your business might go flop and it's completely out of your control. And that happens. You know, you have to go back and work at a Denny's or something for a while until you can pick yourself up by your bootstraps and get back after it. You know, so, yeah. So do that. Yep. Rob Huff, you are living a life most only dream of. Yes, I can say that 100%. You know, we are blessed. You know, we live humbly, and you know, and I'm humbled by all the blessings God gives us, and I'm humbled by you all on YouTube. I am. You know, I'm humbled by that you guys would even come in and have a seat here and chat with us in the evening, let us speak into your ears, right? You know, so like I'm so disproportionately blessed. It's always how I feel all the time, you know, and I think it's important. I really think it's important to keep that always in mind, how blessed we really are, because no matter where you're at on that social totem pole, right, there's always someone lower. There's always someone higher.
Yep.
Always.
That's true.
And there's never a bottom. People think there can be somebody that is at rock bottom. There's really not. The bottom is a bottomless pit. You can sink to oblivion, you know, and, you know, you can climb to the highest heights. So we're all on the social totem pole in some place in life. But, you know, there's just hopefully these general business principles can help you climb that totem pole a little higher, you know, in your own life, wherever you're at. And, you know, hopefully your furnaces will stay strong.
May the furnace be with you.
May the furnace be with you. May your blower never stop and die. Man, that's the most entertaining thing. Oh.
Gotta step away for a second.
Oh, you gotta step away. All right. Thank you, Thomas Goodymoot, for the $2 for if it's a furnace blower, let me know. I have one. I'll let you know, Thomas. Thank you, brother. Oh, Rob, thank you for the keep the family warm fun or fix the Jeep fun or whatever works out. I like that kind of thing. A whatever works out fun. Oh. Simeon Beeler, thank you for the $5 so for the fix a furnace. God bless you all. I really do appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. This quite an entertaining stream for that to happen like right midstream, right? It's live, so you get what you get. It definitely consuming my brain, right? Like I'm trying not to let on, but it's definitely there in my brain. I'm like, okay, is it the inducer motor? You know, it sounds like a bearing's out. Did it catch a cat or something? A mouse in it? Who knows? Did a plane just crash into the barn? Oh, let's hope not, Rob. Let's hope not. I'd like to stay away from any plane crashes around here. We can avoid those. So, but yeah, like I said, we'll be all right. I'll just have to go out to the shop and get the little gas heater that we have that we can plug in for the evening if it's too much of an issue. So, just more stuff to play with, more stuff to work on. You know, it's life, right? It amuses me that I was actually scrolling through some of the YouTube comments today, of all days, to go through YouTube comments, and it just amuses me, like, nowadays, like, I get some of these, like, trolling comments, you know, people who troll, and it makes me think, what kind of person leaves kind of comments, you know, so super negative like that? And I think it's like, they must be having a really bad day, right? You know, it used to be, I thought like, well, how dare they, you know, don't they know I'm a human too? And the reality is they must have such a hard time in life, right? That it would cause them to go out on somebody they don't know from Adam, right? And like dog them out in a comment section. And yeah, I just scrolled through a few today and it was just like, I just kind of laughed. It's like, there's real world problems out there. You know, there's no need in getting into YouTube kerfluffles over people don't liking whatever. I talk too long or I'm not pretty enough, you know. So, Lance Caudell, thank you for the furnace money, the $20 super chat there. I greatly appreciate it. So, at least y'all was in the house. Just think if it was in the forge, y'all wouldn't have known. Exactly. See, that's perfect example, right? Here we are. Same thing with a Jeep. Broke down in the driveway. Dude, best place for a Jeep to break down. Second best to breaking down at a mechanic shop, right? Like in a mechanic's parking lot, right? That's the second best situation there. Is for, you know, to take and just break down at home in your driveway where you can work on it. So, you know, it would have been a little better if I happened to just be pulled into the barn, into the shop space where the wind wasn't on me. But, hey, beggars can't be choosers, right? Same thing. Furnace goes out while we're sitting here. That's good. I know enough. I can say, hey, turn that off. So it's not completely shot yet. So maybe there's something I can do. It might just be something as simple as a bearing versus it locking up and toasting a motor. Right? So, yeah, good way of looking at it. Rob, we have a song called Kerfluffle. You advertising it for us, LOL? Do you want me to advertise it? Is it wholesome, Rob? Birding Hammer Forge, thank you for the $4.99. Greatly appreciate it. So, Frank Strock, I like that. Life is a dance. You learn it one step at a time as you go. Exactly. Yeah, Eric Grover, there are some dregs of the world for sure. Some people are pretty terrible, and it happens. Mr. Crawford, you always make me smile, sir. You always make me smile with your comments, so. Yeah, trolls, like I said, one man's friend is another man's troll, right? Like, it really is. We like what we like. We feel the need to express ourselves when we don't like something, right? So we feel that over need to express ourselves when we don't like something, or we feel like we've been slighted on time, money, or otherwise. And so I've learned that a lot. I think I'm getting a little bit better at not paying any never mind to it nowadays. And again, I was just kind of laughing at it today. You know, I was just like, I was wanting to go through and reply to, I haven't been replying a lot to any messages in the comment sections just because it's like I've been so swamped with everything around here and just life happening. And then I'm like, well, I'll just get on there. And sure enough, like the first 15 comments that came up that YouTube wanted me to address was literally like trolls. Just troll, troll, troll. This guy talks too much. Waste of my time. 30 minutes talking, 10 minutes of useful information. You know, like it was just constant. It was like, oh, well, I needed that brow kick today of all days. So you just have to learn to, you know, deal with it and work with it. So no big deal at all. I used to troll ChristCentered Ironworks in the comments, but I've been slacking. This buying a new house thing has thrown me off my game. Rob, continue trolling anytime, brother. You got to watch that. It can throw you off your game. You know, having a life, right? Oh, that's why you won't find me trolling other people in their comment section. Unless it's for fun. Like it's in jest, and if they actually know I'm jesting, you know, then I'll troll some people that I know fondly and that I love and care for. But other than that, you know, like Troy and Eli, I can troll them just because I like them. Oh. Anyways, so, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if Jessica wants to be in part for this last little bit. Okay, she's busy working on some sort of snack for the snacky do for the kids there. But I'm thinking we're gonna go ahead and call it. Looks like I have got to put on the furnace man cap tonight and go after the furnace and see what's going on there. If not, go out and rub some sticks together and make fire.
Caveman style.
Make fire in our living room. So I'll let you all know how that goes. If you see a glow from the north, it didn't work out very well. So. No, but thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for your support. I hope this was helpful to you all. I really do. Let us know if you ever want us to do another stream like this in the future. It was fun for me. Mm-hmm. I think it was helpful to you all.
Yeah.
If it was, be sure to chat us up and let us know, you know, maybe in the comment section after the stream's over with. Let us know what you thought, you know. So, mm-hmm. Leland Hawk, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. So. I like the looking at the bright side fun. That always helps. Oh, but
Rob says nothing scarier than hungry children.
Yes, they get feverish, feverishly gnawing at things, doorknobs. Or it's like Thomas Goody likes to say, they're just gross. Children are just gross. So, anyways, thank you all so much. God bless each and every last one of you. We will catch you on the next live stream. We will be doing a giveaway live stream this month. All things considering, hopefully.
The year of the forge.
Yep, the year of the forge, even if I have to walk it down to the post office myself.
Yeah, make them come to us.
Yeah, make them come to us. That's the way we'll do it, you know. Mm-hmm. So we will get giveaway items out to you all. Don't you worry. So, but yeah, thank you all for sticking with us this evening. I hope you all enjoyed it. I know I did. And yeah.
It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. So you can find all the information on the next live stream in the description down below. Mm-hmm. And all the other stuff that Jessica's mentioned.
Yep. All the resources and videos.
All the resources and videos and stuff, that's all linked up down below as well. So be sure to take and do that. So that's it. Mm-hmm. We good?
We are. Have a good evening, everyone.
God bless you all. Thank you so much. And we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.